All right. So good evening. Yeah, let's get going here. All right. Silencio, por favor. Okay, so welcome to Candidates Night. In an icy night, drive home safely because we may have some ice on the ground by the time we get out of here, or we may have to scrape it off our windshields. In order that we're not here too late, I'm going to try to keep things moving tonight. We're going to start, I'm going to give you the overview first, then we'll get going. We're going to start with the school, and then we're going to switch over to the town. For people who are in what amount to unopposed races, myself in the school district, for instance, we'll only make a brief statement to introduce ourselves, and then we'll move along so we can get further on to situations where I think the audience will have questions for the candidates. Once we get to the town, I'm going to take the planning board first because that's an unopposed situation because it's a vote for two. Then we'll do the road commissioner, or as most of us say colloquially, the road agent. And then we'll do the selectmen all together. There are different terms because I guess if someone resigns or leaves early, then the next election fills that term because the idea is that the state wants the terms to be staggered. So that's why there's one person running for a one-year term, and then other people are running for full term. And obviously, in some cases, you have different terms. My town moderator term is 2 years. It's 1 year in the school district because that's how it works. So that's why you see some of these different terms on the ballot. So let's start off with people from the school district. We have some people running for school board. I'm going to let them introduce themselves when they get up front. Micah Patillo, come on up, come on up. Dawn Dutton, come on up, come on down, right. Amanda Ayov, Budget Committee, up to the front.
Maybe you want to pledge allegiance?
I wasn't going to make us do that, but why don't we? Okay, it's always a good idea to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I often start my day off with it. So why don't we do that now for anybody who hasn't had that opportunity? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm talking with Terry Beckett, who's running the budget.
Okay. So,
Be up there as well.
yes, you should. We will have someone reading a letter from Terry Beckett, who couldn't attend tonight, but she has a statement on her behalf. So, I'm just going to lead it off, and I'm probably going to say more than any of the candidates are going to say, and I guess that's my opportunity as the moderator. I'm running for school district moderator. I'm not going to talk about that, except I'm going to encourage everyone to participate and get involved with the school district elective process. And that means a couple of things. Obviously, for parents who have kids, I'm sure you're involved with the school already because your kids are in the school. For families that don't have children in the school anymore, or for one reason or another are not involved, we're all involved in the school district because it's very important, because it does a very important function of educating the kids, and it's very expensive because education is not inexpensive. So decisions made at the school district level have significant ramifications for everyone's budget and tax bills. That said, there's many ways to participate in what goes on in the school district. And again, if you're a parent with kids in school, you're probably already participating in a lot of ways. Those should continue happening, of course. But for those of us who don't, there are school board meetings, budget committee meetings, and a process which leads up to the deliberative session. My job as a school district moderator is to run that deliberative session. And it's a pretty quiet event. No, in general now. It didn't used to be, but now in general it's a pretty quiet event. It's probably kind of late in the process to be showing up at the deliberative session and having a big issue with the budget or something because people have been working on that for 6 months ahead of that time. And if you're interested, you should get involved. So my speech is about one thing. If you're interested, get involved. The school is an important function in all ways, and people should get involved and support it and support that process. So for our candidates, we have, we're just going to go in order. Okay. Or we can start, why don't we start with Ms. Beckett's letter?
Yes. She is in Florida, so she sent me her bio to read. My husband and I moved to Sergeant Woods 8.5 years ago after I retired from full-time teaching. I was a mathematics and computer science professor at Endicott College in Beverly, Mass. for 30 years. I continued to teach online computer science classes for Endicott. I have a PhD in math education from the University of Massachusetts. In addition to my full-time position at Endicott, I was also an adjunct professor for 20 years at Salem State University in Salem, Mass. As you can see from my background, I am very familiar with the academic community of public education. I have always been passionate about making our public schools work for all students. Far too often, I have seen classroom instruction that is focused on the low-achieving students, and the rest of the students are left to work on their own. I believe it is our responsibility as a community to push all of our children to the best that they can be, and that excellence is the goal for all students. I do not believe that our students are performing at a satisfactory level based on our student test score results, and that we need to take a hard look at what programs our money is being spent on and what results they provide. It is important to balance the needs of the children with the needs and financial resources of the community that supports them. In 2024, we have a proposed school budget of $39 million and a proposed town budget of $4 million. Clearly, we, the voters of Newton, are providing very substantial funding to the school district in support of our children. I am running for this position to bring my knowledge of public school systems to the table to help craft budgets that take a hard look at spending, that set the needed priorities to support our children, but also that take into account the financial resources of the community, and to ensure the hard-earned tax dollars that the community is providing to the school district are spent wisely with the priority and focus on student achievement. Only by carefully controlling spending and targeting that spending on true needs can we have a financially sustainable situation that allows our contracts to continue to pass so that we can maintain our teachers, improve the performance of our children, and protect that interests of our taxpayers. I ask your support in the coming election on March 14th to the vacant one-year position on the Budget Committee. Thank you for your time and your consideration, Terry Beckett.
Thank you. Ms. Aiello.
Hi, my name's Amanda Aiello. I am running for Budget Committee for the school district. I have been in the accounting field for over 20 years. One of my primary responsibilities is budgeting, so it's kind of my thing. And I am also currently seeking my master's in accounting and finance. One of the things I love doing is digging into, financial reporting and seeing, where issues lie and what can be done to help correct it. So I look forward to your support.
Thank you. Ms. Dutton.
Hi, my name is Dawn Dutton. I am currently finishing out my third year on the school board, second year as the school board chair. I'm currently serving for Kingston. I'm running for the at-large seat this year. I was actually born and raised in Newton, so I have a huge passion for both towns. Just because I currently live in Kingston doesn't mean that's the only town I think about. I always think about Newton every time there's a decision to be made. My family moved into town in the 40s. My grandfather used to work downstairs. He was an electrical inspector. My uncle was the fire chief, David Baker, for years and years and years. My parents both had businesses in town. We actually got taxed out of Newton in '96. So making sure we are fiscally responsible and allowing our taxpayers to stay is really important to me because I lived through not being able to stay in town because of taxes. So that's a huge thing that is, really gets to me, because that was a big deal for us. Granted, we only moved down the road into Kingston, but it was a big deal my senior year of high school. So I try to think about that anytime we're making decisions. I also have 3 children. One has already graduated from Sanborn. I have 2 that are currently at Sanborn. I have 5 nieces and nephews in the district as well, so I have vested interest for the next 13 years in this district. I'm just can't even express how passionate I am about making sure that our students excel by making sure we meet everyone where they need to be. We have students, like your letter said, that are lower level learners. They need to be taken care of. We also have higher level learners, and we need to make sure that they are taken care of as well, and we have everybody in between. And we're working extremely hard right now on the school board to make sure that we are trying to meet the needs of everyone. We are reworking curriculums. We are doing so much to try and just make sure that everyone everyone is being taught to where they need to be, because our goal is success for everyone. Another thing that's really important is making sure that all of our students are prepared when they leave the building, because I know for me personally, my oldest daughter and my oldest nephew, who both graduated in 21, were not fully prepared. And so it's been definitely something I've been very proactive with in trying to ensure that we really take into account making sure our students are prepared for the future, whether it's college, whether it's the trades. It's something that we're working really hard on. Accountability is huge and is something that we're really working to make sure is put into place. This year was definitely a tough year for some people because of that, but it's really important to make sure that everyone is held accountable so they can be successful when they move on in the future. So I am hoping to get your vote at the polls, and I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Mr. Patillo.
What she said. I agree with that. Really good. I don't know how you follow that. So my name is Micah Patillo, and I'm running for the Newton seat on the school board. And a lot of what Dawn said just resonated for me too. I have 3 kids also, age 10, 8 now, and 6, in the school system. So I understand the need for focus on academic performance, especially of kids of varying levels, and preparedness for them. But I am also a taxpayer too, and I've lived here since 2009. My wife Rachel and I moved here in 2009, and it's a really complex problem to try and give the kids the most that you can while still being sustainable and making sure that we're not taking everything that we can from taxpayers who need sustainability. They need responsible and sensible spending. That's how the system can continue to grow and thrive and flourish. So that's the big thing for me, is this sort of walking that fine line of doing the most we can for everybody involved, so the situation is equitable and fair to everybody involved, because there's a lot of decisions that happen on the school board that impact not just the kids, but they impact all of you and everyone in the town. So, and I also have an academic background, and I have a background in marketing as well. So I'm a creative director at Southern New Hampshire University. I've worked there and taught there for over a decade, and I have a background, my master's degree in philosophy. So a lot of what I feel like I can bring to the table is critical thinking, good communication skills, good listening, being able to work with people and understand what's at the core of most of the issues that the community and our students are facing, and to be able to make decisions that benefit everybody.
Thank you. So thank you very much. That's our school candidates. Obviously, you'll see the school ballot on March 14th, because we'll all be at the polls then. Thank you, guys. All right, on to the town. Let's start off first with the planning board. Ms. Burke is one of the candidates for planning board. There are 2 open seats and 2 candidates, so she's effectively unopposed, even though if you look at the ballot, there's 2 names there. So, Ms. Burke, a quick introduction would be great, and then we'll move on to the rest of the races in the town.
Hi all, my name is Raina Burke. I moved to Newton about 2 years ago. I was previously a resident of Haverhill, Massachusetts, right over the line. I've always had a close connection to New Hampshire. My father lived in Kingston, New Hampshire my entire life as well. So now that I'm nearing my 30s, I've decided that I think it's vitally important for our younger generation to get involved with their towns and their cities and local politics. So I decided to put my name in for the planning board. I am currently in my junior year at the University of New Hampshire studying environmental conservation and sustainability with a dual major in humanities. I'm incredibly dedicated to following along and trying to maintain the sustainable development goals that the United Nations has put out. There's about 17 of them. One of them is economic growth and stability, and I think that's something that Newton could definitely, get involved in and would gain from making sure that we make local and small businesses more equitable and more easy to gain, and also making sure that our families in Newton are having good access to being able to renovate their homes in a sustainable way. I'm also seeking a master's certificate in geographic information systems. That technology is vitally important as well when it comes to community planning, conservation, and sustainability. And so I'm excited to start to get to know my community members more and be more involved with the town of Newton.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to our first contested race, and that's for road commissioner, Mr. Pavero. And do we also have Mr. Gibbs? Is Mr. Gibbs here? Yeah, come on up, Frank. So since we have 2 candidates that are, that we have an actual sort of contest, we shift the rules a little bit. And the way we've done it traditionally is each of the people gets to make an opening statement. And we start in no particular order. Since there's only 2 guys, we're just going to go left to right here. But then we alternate order. And so at the end, you get to make a kind of a final statement. And then in between, you get to field questions. And I want to talk a minute about questions. Questions are not long speeches with a question at the end. It helps for everybody here to have a little bit of context about the question maybe, and then the question. And in addition, I want a question that both candidates can answer. In other words, it's not really useful to the voters to get kind of personalized questions that don't talk more about the overall job. And it's fine to talk about a particular circumstance, but it's more like, well, how would you deal with that if you had to, if I want a question that both candidates can answer, because both candidates will answer the question. So it's most helpful to think about that a little bit if you can to structure your question in a way that we can feed it to both of the candidates. Occasionally people want to make a follow-up question. That's great. We may do that. But remember, both candidates get to answer the question. So you got to kind of hold your follow-up until we've got the answers. It's kind of tempting, I know, when in normal life when we ask questions to people, particularly when I used to do it to my kids, you kind of fire questions back and forth, right? Because you're sort of trying to interrogate them and find out what really happened and why they're late. But we can't really do that here because that's not our purpose, right? We've got people watching us on Zoom. They may have questions as well, of course. Many people have many different questions, and we're really trying to understand what are the 2 candidates? What are they about? What are they going to do? What do they think? What do they face? Things, that's what we're trying to learn tonight. So, with that said, why don't we start, Mr. Pavero, opening statement, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. My name's Mike Pavero. I'm the current road agent, and I have been for the past 15 years. A little introduction to myself for the folks that don't know me. I moved here in 1985. I've raised my family. Now I'm raising grandkids here, my daughters. We're into the 2nd generation here. Great community, it always has been. Served in the United States Marine Corps for 8 years. I have education 1 to 12. I also have college. I went to Northeastern University and Wentworth Institute of Technology. Founded Eastern Seaboard Construction in 1984. So I've operated and run that business for almost 40 years now. I've done projects from federal bridges, highways, seawalls, wastewater treatment plants, airports, military bases. I've actually had the fortunate designation. I rehabbed the USS Case and Young in the U.S. Charlestown shipyard in Boston a number of years ago. My projects have ranged from residential in excess of $30 million. Here in Newton, since I've been road agent, I've dealt with some water issues that were there prior to my tenure. Some of them were box culverts in Webster, Curryville Road, flooding, icing on Highland Street. I don't know how many people were around here back in the day. The top of Highland Street used to ice over almost every storm. I mean, there's a lot of new faces in here, so I'm not sure how many people remember that.
Old days.
I've reconstructed in my 15 years as road agent almost 6 miles of road. I wish I could have done more. Budgetary restrictions limit to what we can do every year, unfortunately. And based upon calculated numbers, by doing it the way we have done it up to this point, I've saved the taxpayers about $200,000 to $225,000 in that reconstruction, the way we've gone about it. I've dealt with 11 natural disasters, 15 natural disasters. 11 of them were FEMA events that we were compensated for during that time period. I think, one other thing, with the DRMO, which was that government agency, I was able to acquire about $800,000 in surplus government equipment that we still have in town now. That's about it.
Thank you. Mr. Gibbs.
Thank you. I'm Frank Gibbs. I've lived in this town since 1955. I was on the planning board for almost 9 years. I'm currently on the ZBA board. I was a road agent for 9 years prior to Mike being there. Couple things I'd like to change is the highway truck needs 2 people as a safety issue. And my main priority would be buying a truck for the town. I'd like to see 2 trucks in the next 3 years. That the town can have the truck for plowing, sanding, and in the summertime use it for doing road work and all of that. We're paying a lot of money out on a paying for private trucks being worked on, in the town. So if the town could buy a truck, we could save a lot of money. And that's basically it.
Thank you. So now we're open for questions. Do we have someone who'd like to lead off with a question? Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know how we're going to...
Hang on one second. Unfortunately, we really need you to come up and use the mic, because otherwise the people on Zoom won't know they'll see us, but they won't know what we're saying. And they'll be, kind of confused. Sorry, just grab it and pull it down. Yeah, it's a little tall.
I'd like to know how we're going to buy 2 trucks and how that's going to save us money, because I just bought a truck last year and there's maintenance that goes with it, there's insurance that goes with it, and I think we just heard people complaining about the taxes in town and the budget, and we don't have enough money to do the current roads. So how do you propose that's going to, 1, how are you going to fund it? And 2, how is it going to save us money? And I know the question's supposed to be for both, but...
That's fine. Well, it will be. Let's start off. We're going to go in the reverse order. So, Frank, why don't you take that one first? And then we'll go to Mike.
Okay, I think right now we're paying $50 an hour for truck rental for working on the roads in the summertime. If you go $50 an hour times 8, that's $400 a day, times 5, that's $2,000 a week, times 4 is $8,000 a month. $8,000 a month, I think we can buy our own truck.
But you're assuming that's how the money's being allocated? You're
I would
assuming
be
that-
working with the selectmen to have a lease option, you know, and buy it out at the end of the lease would be, you know, like a buyout for $1.
Mr. Pavero, you want to, same question?
Same question?
Yeah.
Okay. Conceptually, I agree with the town buying a truck. I've said that for 8 or 10 years, maybe longer. You asked the question that is a valid question. Things have to be put in place before you purchase that truck. What's the maintenance plan? Who's going to be doing the maintenance to it? The insurance cost for a town is a lot cheaper than a private company. They go through Primex. Municipalities will get a much better rate for insurance. So there are savings. Here's the problem. You can take it out of the equipment rental line that we have in town. That's going to deplete that rental cost. What Frank just said is not accurate. That truck is not used every day. I leave $500,000 to $1 million worth of my equipment on Dugway Road for the town's use. I don't move it, it's there. It only is billed when Ronnie, who's the highway foreman, uses it. It's to his convenience. That's why it's left there. So a pickup truck is not what Ronnie uses every day. Are there times Ronnie uses a pickup truck? Absolutely. Depending on what his job activity is what he pulls off the shelf down there and uses. So to say that that truck is going to be a savings to the town because you're using it, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks out of the year, that's a misleading statement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions?
I don't agree with that.
Sean,
Okay.
okay. Well, you can come back on, you can circle back on that at some point. Other questions? Ms. Gardner.
Yes, that's me. What do you see as the responsibility of the road agent, and how can the people measure your success in performing them?
Mr. Pavero is going to start that one, because we're going to alternate.
The road agent job here in town is much more complex than the title carries it as to be. Certainly we take care of the infrastructure in the town. In a small town like this, you have to wear a lot of hats. You have to work closely with the police department, the fire department, other town departments that need assistance in certain situations that come up. The kind of list goes on, but you have to be available to help out a community like this, because we have always been understaffed. There's not a lot of people in this town. The highway department, the one we're talking about now, we have 1 employee. It's an issue. I've been trying to get another employee for the past couple of years. The pay rate that we're looking to pay that person, they're not coming. If you can find them, our pay scale right now is $14 an hour. They can go to Starbucks and make more than that. So, it's very difficult to cover the bases here with the limited people we do the best we can. The success, how you're measured as a road agent, I don't know. One day you're a hero, one day they don't like you. I can't tell you how we measure that success. I stay within my budget. I have the past 15 years. I think on just the road agent aspect, it just stay within your budget. We had more money, we'd fix more roads. That's it.
Right.
When I had it before, I made sure that all the holes were filled, cold patch or hot top. And in the wintertime, the first year I had it, I went to the police department and got a list of where all the accidents are. And those were the main places that I sent the sand truck initially in a snowstorm, so there wasn't any accidents. I brought the accident rate down to almost zero, and there were like 15 accidents almost every storm before I took it. And if we can't get 2 people, I personally will get in the truck and fill the holes to make the second person. I don't mind going out working. I don't mind working for $14 an hour. That's not a problem. There needs to be 2 people in the truck.
Thank you.
That's it.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
Selectman Marchand, good evening, gentlemen. Mr. Rivera already touched upon it. He has equipment setting aside. Mr. Gibbs, if you were to become road agent, do you have that type of equipment to be able to step right in and start serving this town before we purchase any equipment?
I do. I have over $1 million worth of equipment sitting in my yard.
Okay?
I have all the equipment that I need to do this
And you
job.
would be able to bring it in and have it set aside just for the town purpose?
It'll sit in my yard. It won't be sitting in the town yard.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Pavero, you want to address that question?
Bob, what was the question again? Do I have enough equipment?
Does he have enough equipment?
Yeah, I leave $1 million of equipment here. I have 4.7 million scattered around. I think I got it covered. Thank you.
Yes.
So my question's gonna be about the second person. It's gonna be, how are you gonna fund it? And I'm hearing, so can I address this to Frank first?
Yeah,
Frank, so how would you fund it? And I hear you saying you would step in for the $14 an hour, but we wouldn't even be able to, I'm not hearing anybody having that in the budget, because I heard Mike earlier say he's been asking for that second person. So I think everyone's in agreement for the second person. What would you do to get that position?
I haven't really looked at the figures to see where the money is for that, but
So you're proposing, I think I'm hearing you say you would take the existing budget and somehow find a way to fund it or fund the position?
how much money for salary in the budget?
Well, I
Yeah,
think,
there's not enough.
yeah.
There's
I-
not
I
enough
thought
in the line
that's-
item.
That's what I had heard. So you're saying that 2 people should be manning the truck, and I think for a storm, a temporary, you would volunteer your time then, because you said you'd be paid $14 an hour, but I'm hearing we don't have the money for it, so you'd volunteer to be that second person?
When I left the job a few years ago, there was always 2 people in the truck, and that's the way it was budgeted for 2 employees. There was a full-time employee and a part-time employee when I left quite a few years ago.
Okay, but for now, if you were to get the position, what would your plan be for that?
As a safety issue, I've worked in many towns, you do street openings, you need a police officer there. There can't be, someone has to direct traffic. There can't be one person in the truck. Safety-wise, that just isn't right. It's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Okay, I mean,
Let's try to give Mr. Rivera, because we get so many questions stacked up, he won't be able to sort of
Yeah.
address it. Mr. Rivera, you want to touch on the same topic, that is, how would you fund a second person? Because I think it seems like second person's got a generally,
everybody, yeah, I think
everybody kind of
everyone
likes that
agrees
idea.
with that.
Yeah, no, the second person, listen, I've said it for the past 4 or 5 years at budget meetings with the selectmen. There's a couple selectmen sitting in there now. They can nod their heads yes or no. I've been pushing to get the salary increase so we could bring another person on board. It's no surprise.
Yeah.
Is it a safety issue? Absolutely. I brought that up the past 3 or 4 years in public meetings. That's not a secret. This year, I have proposed to increase the salary line item about $24,000 in order to try to get that second person on board. If the proposed budget fails, I will not have money to hire a second person unless we pull it out of something else. We're already, listen, the funding's lean as it is. So I don't know what to tell you. If we can increase the salary line item, then we can hopefully bring in a second employee. And to correct Mr. Gibbs, both employees he had were both part-time. I have one full-timer now.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Ms. McCullough.
Hi, you had mentioned earlier that road agent has more than just road agent jobs. You wear many hats and you help us out. In your tenure as road agent, can you list me 2 things that you have done for the town in your own time, energy, your own, the goodness of your heart to help the town of Newton? 2 things out of your many. I have a list this long. 2 things, please.
Is this to me or to Frank?
This is to you first.
Well, yeah, we'll go that
yeah.
way. Yeah.
All right, so I'm up. 2 things
We're
I've
kind
done.
of trying to alternate.
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah,
It's hard
that's
to
fine,
do.
that's fine, that's fine.
2 things you've done to help this town better itself because we do not have the funds, the workers, or just to help out.
I changed the infield to the Newton Ball Field for Little League. I installed a new playground at Greenie Park. You kind of hit me on,
I'm sorry, I
on the
should have
cold here, but things that I've done. I think I help the fire department on a regular basis behind the scenes. The Girl Scouts. Well, I've done 7, 8, 9, 10 projects between the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts over the past, I don't know, 8 or 10 years.
So that's a good handful there. And Frank, while you were road agent, can you give me 2 things you've done for the town on your own time, your own dime, your own energy?
One that comes to mind is a skate park. When they built that, I donated my time for that, and I got the concrete donated for free from Kingston Material.
Okay.
And I've gone out in the trucks and helped the guys do work there too.
Thank you.
Other questions and comments? And I'm going to kind of try to push to wrap them up pretty quickly so we can get on to the main act, the selectmen. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Quick question for both of you, actually. This is, since we talked about, we had a discussion about buying our own vehicles, whether that's affordable or not, still up for debate. If we don't buy our own vehicles, then we have to rent them. For each of you, if you got, what is the current that we pay for rent right now? And if you were elected, how much would you expect the town to pay for rentals to rent these trucks to take care of our roads? Thank you.
Why don't you, we're flipping order, so Frank, why don't you start off on that?
I don't know the rates right now.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, it depends. I'm sorry, your name, sir?
Oh, James Summers.
Jamie, how are you? It depends on the vehicle you're referring to. They range from a pickup truck with all the tools in it to a 6-wheel, 11-foot plow with a wing on it. My road graders. I don't know how to address that question because you kind of fine-tuned it to a vehicle, and it's not one vehicle rented to the town.
If you had like an average of what the rental costs, since you've been here that many years, what your average rental cost is over that year?
There's no average rental cost. I mean, you're taking a pickup truck, which is $50 an hour with all the tools in it, or we just bumped the rental rates up on our plows, Sanders, 11-foot wing with a wing on it. We were at $72 an hour last year, and we are up to 81 or 82 this year.
Does that include the person?
That includes the person, includes the fuel, it includes the insurance, it includes the maintenance. And listen, maintenance gets expensive. I had one of my 6-wheelers hit the railroad track last year. Accident. It was $17,000 to put all the pumps, weld the whole main frame back on it, and put it back together. That is not charged to the town. I eat it.
So, to understand correctly, follow up, you don't know how much you charged the town last year?
For the entire year?
Yes.
I didn't think that's what you were asking me.
Yeah, for the whole year.
Did I misunderstand the question?
I think so.
The question was on the rate.
On the rate.
I mean, you can.
I'm sorry, on the rate. Okay. So you're right, correct, for the year. As average over the years, I'm sorry, maybe I should correct that better. Average over the years, how much per year is usually the rate been? I mean, I said it again, rate. The price been for rentals to the town.
So the yearly rental cost, what I charge the town on a year, on an average?
Yes.
I bet you it's 100 and $80,000 a year.
180,000.
Yeah.
And we just spoke about a truck, buying trucks, correct? How much? Do you know how much the truck was you were planning on buying?
With it all spec'd out, it should be around 110,000.
So if that was, if I understand correctly, math-wise, $110,000 for a truck,
Right.
and we're spending that per year right now for rental fees, correct?
You're comparing apples and oranges.
It's not the same thing.
Apples and oranges is where you're going right now.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
King.
Hi, Jamie Fitzpatrick. What do you consider to be the single biggest issue facing the road agent in the coming year, and what is your proposed solution to that issue? Thank you.
Once you, I forget who was the first guy in the last
I
one.
forget.
I didn't
It's
get...
Mike's turn. All right, let Mike lead off, and then Frank, you lead a second shot.
Jamie, I would say the biggest issue on this upcoming year is funding. No question about it, funding. If we're going to operate in last year's operational budget, I'll hit you with the three big things that have increased out of everybody's control. Paving roads is a thing everybody here in town feels and sees the most. That's what you guys see. We do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you don't see and don't care because you don't see the issue. That's our job. But paving has gone up substantially this year, tonnage price. Salt that we're putting on the roads right now that goes up. Last year, we were paying $47.25 a ton. It's $82.30 a ton this year. It's doubled. I cannot not put the material down on the road. This is a perfect storm. There's not a lot of snow. But when we go outside the door tonight to go home, it's going to be ice. It's freezing rain. We've treated those roads 3 times today. We'll treat it another time tonight. That will wear my budget out faster than anything. So, you know, the operational costs are going up very quickly right now, and everybody in this room feels it. Everybody feels it in this room. Go to the grocery store, on and on and on and on. We could discuss it for 4 hours. We don't have a control over it. We need to have the stuff. Fuel. Look at what we're paying for fuel. That's another increase that's jumped up substantially in the past 2.5 years. Diesel fuel's, you know, over $5 a gallon. I'll go through this storm right here, I'll go through 600 or 700 gallons of diesel fuel at $5 a gallon. That's all part of my rental rates. So it's, I don't know if that answers your question, Jamie, but it's budgetary. That's going to be the biggest increase that we will face in this upcoming year.
I have nothing to add. Basically what he said.
Okay, fine, I understand. Yeah. Okay, more questions from here. I think I have one. Do you want to take one from quickly? Okay. We're going to take one from Zoom, kind of a, you know, quick. We don't want to leave them hanging forever.
Hi, this might be a follow-up question to Mr. Summers about the rental and the cost behind that. From the budget documentation, it looks like the summer and winter rentals cost to the town are well over $300,000 a year. On that note, buying a truck for significantly less would seem to make sense. Is that something that's possible, or can you comment on either of you?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch his name. What was his name?
Anthony Levin.
Were you able, you got the question? I think I got the question, which is basically, relative to the budget amount, how does that compare to the rental cost for a truck? I guess, but the rental's for more than one truck, right? So it's, but.
So just to clarify, the equipment rental for winter for 2022 expenditure was $171,870.93. The equipment rental for summer was $73,120. I understand that not all of that would be for a single truck, but it would seem that there would be room in that amount of money being spent, that we could make a well-informed purchase of a vehicle and other equipment such as chainsaws, for example. I'm not sure how much the rate is for a chainsaw. Mr. Pavero could probably let us know. But I think if we rented a chainsaw for $30 an hour or something like that, we could probably purchase one after a few hours or days of rental rather than renting.
Why don't we start off with, because we're flipping around. Frank, you want to take that one first?
I wouldn't be renting a chainsaw, I would be purchasing it as the road agent, and I'd go with electric chainsaws. They work very good. You put a little generator in the truck to charge your batteries up for during the day, and that'll save on gas.
Mike?
Wow. Okay, so we do, I'll answer Mr. Levin's first question. It is $30 a day for a chainsaw. I want to kind of educate everybody as fast as I can on this. I keep 6 chainsaws on the shelf up here at 8 Merrimack Road. We have incidents. We had one at Christmas time. We had a disaster. We had 11 trees down in town, transformers down. I have to rifle things out to people to clear roads as fast as we possibly can. So one chainsaw sitting on a shelf, that's not going to work. I can assure you that's not going to work. Second of all, if for some reason somebody thinks $30 a day to rent a chainsaw is a lot of money, you better go start maintaining your own. Because again, just like the trucks, that's the fuel, that's the chain, that's the maintenance that goes on with that chainsaw, so that when you grab it off the shelf, that's ready to go and it's running. $30 a day for a chainsaw is not that expensive. We don't use them here every day. I think if the case was put in front of us that if we were a land clearing crew that was running chainsaws every single day, that's a no-brainer. Buy your chainsaws. But there'll be weeks and weeks and weeks we don't use a chainsaw here. Maybe months. So at $30 a day, I'm responsible for the maintenance of it. If you buy, in general, you keep talking about buying a truck, and even now we're talking about buying chainsaws. Who's maintaining it? Who's maintaining it?
I believe
That's
that would be the road
crickets,
agent.
because that's who's maintaining it.
All right, more questions? Yes. Well, why don't we take this gentleman here? I don't think he's had a chance to ask. Come on up, sir.
I want to play on this. I'm Craig Walker. Both you gentlemen can answer this question. I know you both know it by heart, but let's answer it for everybody else. A chain and a bar for, let's say it's a 16, 20-inch chainsaw.
Yep.
How much is a chain and a bar? Because I'm going to throw it out. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. Chains get worn out and they turn into junk if you use them all day long, cutting trees all day long, they're junk. How much is a chain and a bar? That's all.
I like that question.
Mike? I'll start off with you. We're going in there.
Am I up again?
Yeah, why don't you hit that one and then Frank can
Chain and
answer.
a bar is going to be $100, maybe north of $100.
Frank?
Roughly that, $30 for the chain, and you don't need the bar every time you put a new chain on it, but roughly.
That's all. I just want people to know.
Yeah, no, I appreciate, no.
I'm sorry, were you already waiting? Let Lisa go and then we'll next. And then I'm going to try to wrap us up by 7:30 so we can switch on to the selectmen.
All right, so this is going to play a little bit on the discussion. So, there has been gossip and conjecture regarding the common practice of the road agent renting his own equipment to the town to perform the necessary functions of the position, and this is decades of road agents doing this. This is not just the current, decades. If the people decide to make it so that you can rent equipment, but it must be a third party that you have no personal or business relationship with, would you still be willing to hold this office?
Lisa, before you go, can you give me a little more on that one?
Yes, so there have been questions, gossip, conjecture that the road agents are in the job for the money that they make renting their equipment to the town. So I figure this question is a way to address that concern, to see whether or not that is the purpose of being a road agent. So if, as road agent, you are unable to rent your own equipment, you must rent from a third party, would you still be willing to hold this position as road agent?
Who's answering this
Frank,
one?
you're first.
I have no problem with that, but you're creating a very bad problem. If you have a tree go down and you gotta hire someone, you're a couple weeks out. It's not gonna get done. Like he said, it has to be done immediately. And when we have our own equipment, we can go to work immediately. If you had to hire another company to do it, you're gonna go through the selectmen, you're gonna go out to bid because it's so much money, it's not gonna get done. You're gonna have a big problem.
My question was, would you still be willing to hold the position?
I'm willing, yes, but you're gonna have a problem, nothing is gonna get done.
No, the road agent would have the problem.
It's gonna be the town people. It's not
Everybody
our
would have the
problem.
Mike?
Am I up?
Yep, you're up.
Same question?
Yep.
I'm not being a road agent. I'm done.
Can you explain?
I certainly can explain that. So my compensation as road agent, there's no salary. I don't bill an hour of my time unless I'm in a sander, or I'm in a loader, or I'm in a backhoe. I'm performing some task for this town. It was asked for me a little while ago what my average budget is, what I bill the town averagely a year. I'm saying 170, 180,000. Might come up a little, down a little. The girls in my office have asked me why I do the road agent position here in town. Because when they're done breaking down the costs, I make about 16% on that number. So that means I'm doing the road agent position here in town for about $30,000 a year. Listen, I can make a lot more money doing what I do for a living every day, running a construction company. Now, we'll go back to when Dewey was road agent, which is now 25 years ago. Dewey's salary was $20,000. He got a $20,000 salary 25 years ago. I bill nothing. I don't charge anything. I don't charge for all the support. I'm going to tell you, sitting here, and I hate to even say this, but this is a job interview. I'm on a job interview right now, right? I don't bill for half of what I do for this town. I don't bill for half. But I'm not taking the road agent position and not having some compensation for it. So that'll be a no for me.
There we go. All right, next question.
So this is going to be around the rental, because that seems to be everyone's hot button. It seems there's a perception out there that a mint is being made on the rentals, but I clearly heard that it's not just one truck. So Frank, when you did it, I don't think you just used one truck, a pickup truck. You had all your equipment as well.
Right.
And those rates vary depending on which
Correct.
truck you pull out, right? If it's snow, you know, whatever the big plows, I mean, I don't know your language, but like, I get it. It's a bigger truck, it's more gas, it's more expensive maintenance, something goes. So, when you did the rental, there's no way to take the rental down, the amount of money down, is what I think I heard Mike say. So the rental in the budget, the cost of it, you're only charging what you send out. So it's not like all your trucks, this is what I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not like all your trucks are sitting there and you're charging us as a town for all the trucks. You're charging us for them as they're being used, correct?
That's correct.
And Frank, would that be your model as well? You would charge us for the trucks as you're being used?
Right.
So that line item is gonna stay there in our budget regardless of who gets the position, is that correct?
Right.
Okay. And more than likely, it's gonna be, it seems comparable, because we talked about the cost of repairs and things, and you both agreed that what was being presented to us was correct. It was ballpark, yes?
Correct.
Okay, well, I guess that was my question and answer.
Okay, so I think it's 7:30. We ought to try to wrap up with these guys. So You get a closing statement. I'm going to take them in the reverse order. That means, Frank, you go first.
I'd just like to thank you for this time that we could do this on TV, everybody involved. Thank you.
Mine will be a little bit longer. Okay, so when Frank took over, which would have been 1999, 2000, in that
Roughly.
from Dewey, the highway budget at the time was $260,000. That's what Dewey's budget was.
Summer and winter.
Summer and winter, total budget. So when Frank left 9 years later, that budget went up $100,000 in a 9-year period. I've been road agent for 15 years. This is the biggest bite of the apple I'm taking this year, and most of it is because of the increase in operating costs. Prior to this, my budget went up. It ran pretty close to $347,000 for that time period. The Selectmen, and I did what they asked me to do, we decreased the budget 5 years in a row. So I went the wrong way, which is part of the reason why I'm playing catch up now. If you averaged a 2% increase a year, which is usually the average you try to shoot for, municipalities, I should be right now an operating budget with a 2% increase of where I was at $472,000. I'm at 405. I'm less than what the budget should be increased, just an average increase every year. So now it looks like I'm reaching more for this proposed budget this year, but it's because we went the wrong way for so long. So I'm just saying, you know, we're asking budget, we're asking numbers, we're asking to buy trucks. All of this is an economical and a mathematical equation. Really, who sits in this seat? You can name whoever you want. But at the end of the day, we have $405,000 to maintain 50 miles of road, which a replacement cost for that infrastructure will be north of $60 million. So we have an infrastructure that's $60 million, and we're asked to maintain it for $405,000 a year. And half of that budget, between 42 and 50% of that operating budget is winter maintenance, which is snow. So that's what eats up that budget. You don't get an awful lot of money left to do the improvements that we need to do in town. That's my spiel. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. So, next up, the Selectmen. And if you're a candidate for Selectman, come on up. And Mike, I'm just going to give you the same questions as everybody else. The term doesn't matter. Let's get everybody up there.
I can't be special on my own.
No. So, same procedure. I'm going to let the audience pick which side are we going to start on. All in favor of left? All in favor of right?
Their left or our
All right. I'll try that again. It's from the point of view of the audience, that would be the right, where Mr. Melvin is. That would be the left, where Mr. Guide is. So, in terms of which way we're going to start, all in favor of the left? Aye. All in favor of the right? The lefts are noisier. I'm going to say they got it. So that means it's going to start with Mr. Guide. All right, so we're going to go through the same process, basically. Everybody gets a few moments to introduce themselves. They'll have the opportunity at the end. We'll do that in reverse order at the end, regardless of where we end up with questions. And I'm going to try to direct a question to everybody. So try to make your questions, general for everybody. And remember, we got more people to answer every question. So, Mr. Guide, why don't you start off and give us a little background on yourself, and we'll take it from there.
Sure thing. My name's Dan Guide. I bought a house here 4 years ago. My wife grew up in Newton. The house I bought, her grandfather built, which was Ed Day. Prior to that, I grew up in Atkinson. Prior to me buying the house in Newton, I lived in Plastow, where I served on the Timberlane School Board. I have 5 kids. 2 of them are in college. The other 3 are in the Sanborn district currently. I serve on the Sanborn School Budget Committee, and I also serve on Newton's Planning Board. I've done both positions for a year, and I think it's going great. I got a lot of accolades on the Budget Committee from my experience working at Timberlane for the things that I implemented and changed the way we did things. I'm a volunteer. I'm a small business owner. I have a business that's got a couple locations. I like giving back to the town. I don't have an agenda, so to speak. I mean, everybody's got an agenda, right? But I don't really have one other than the fact that you need selectmen that are going to show up and be here for meetings and be a part of this town and give back to the town and actually be involved. I believe I'm a younger generation. Nothing. I was just making sure. I was looking down to make sure.
Respect those elders.
I am. No, of course. I'm just saying I believe I'm a younger generation who's trying to get in and give back to the town. I've been trained in various RSAs and everything else, 91A, which has to do with government transparency. I'm well versed and I'm equipped to do this job. And that's it. I'm good with that.
Mr. Hale.
How you doing? My name's Anthony Aiello. Been a resident in town since 2017. I just want to help if I can, maybe have a different opinion on the board. I'd like to see, the town live within its means. We all have to do it. I'd like to see the town do it. If there's any way that I can input with, with any different thoughts or suggestions, I'd love to do that. I think it's nice to change people out, not always have the same crew. Like longtime politicians, just, other than that, that's really it. I just, I've been here. I'm not planning on going anywhere. I feel like if I, can do my part in any way, maybe come up with creative ideas to come up with some sort of tax revenue that's not just taxpayers paying tax money. Maybe bringing some businesses in. I know we don't have like a main road like Kingston does. They have a better revenue, but maybe there's something we can do to generate a little bit of revenue that's just not raising the taxes. Maybe we can brainstorm, come up with something. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Mr. Conley.
I'm Mike Conley. I moved into town in 2009. Bridgewater State College, I was active there. I was part of the student run, 100% student run. There's only 2 in the country of the transportation department. That's when I started in leadership and management. Was while I was in college. I was also a resident assistant, and I played lacrosse. So I put myself through college. So I understand some of the hardships our young kids are going through when they're looking at now much more expensive bills. I've been looking at bills since a young age, having been a mother who was a widow at a young age. So I understand the challenges, especially when it comes to budgets. I've been doing budgets since I was 20 years of age. And yes, I'm not that old. However, I am old. However, I am in the energy industry. What does that mean? That means I deal with, you name it. From the residential side of things, I understand the challenges. From a commercial, industrial, and not just the big Boeings of the world, but the local machine shop, the guy that's got 5 employees that's trying to make it, right? Why do I bring this up? I bring this up because the challenges that are in front of this town today are around budget. What Mr. Pavero said is real in every single department. I don't care if it's the fire chief who's here, this young police officer in the back. The challenges that they're having are around the same thing. Prices have gone up. So what do you need to do about it? You need to get smart about it. You need to understand budgets, right? That you see before you today from a proposed budget to the default budget. It will be talked about. If anybody wants to have deep dive conversation of this, we can. There were some changes done to how we do budgets. Why? We have a town administrator, an acting town administrator, that found the way we did it wasn't 100% correct. Normally, you wouldn't see as big of a delta between the two. However, during this correction, you're looking at something, and I think Mr. Pavero pointed to this, which is the way things have been done in the past, save, cost, save, right? Has finally caught up. If we don't move forward, and this is the biggest thing, that whether you vote for the budget or go to the default budget, there are going to be pros and cons to both. Part of what I want to bring to you tonight and also going forward is transparency so that you understand what you're voting for. So if you're looking at a candidate, and I'm going unopposed, but if you're looking at a candidate that wants to bring more transparency into this town, I'm going to be doing that. That's what I'm going to be standing for. I don't have any skin in the game. I'm not looking for favors. I'm not asking favors, nothing. I want to truly bring a budget process that brings education to the town, and at the end of the day, you don't come up to the deliberative session and not know what you're looking for. I want to see PowerPoints. I want to see presentations. I want to see data, factual data, not rumors when it comes down to it. I want to run it like I run my business. I want employees to understand exactly what's going on. I want you, the town employee, you who vote for us, to understand what you're voting for. Because I think there's miscommunication and misleading going on to this budget, and I will drive that clarity. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Simone.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and voters of Newton and our broadcast audience. My name is Joe Simone, and I thank you for the opportunity to come before you this evening. I am running for one of the 3-year terms that are available to us right now, and there are two. I've been a resident of Newton for 45 years. I reside in Quaker Grove with my wife Lynn, and together there we've raised our 2 children. That's afforded me the opportunity to participate in a lot of activities during that tenure. Some of them being Little League, Cub Scouts, co-founder of Sanborn Youth Soccer, Town Budget Committee, was on the fire station building committee. Most recently, I'm a member of the Recreation Committee and also work with the ARPA group. Additionally, I am one of your elected trustees of the trust funds, into which I would resign that position if I was so elected. Given all these interactions with various boards and commissions over the past 45 years, and all the information and thought processes, and what I've seen attending Selectmen meetings for the past 2 years, I feel that I'm qualified to work collaboratively with the additional members of the board and provide a prudent management for the town residents of Newton.
Thank you. Mr. Melvin.
I'm Charles Melvin Sr. Probably most of you know me. Some of you don't like me, but that's okay. I've lived in Newton for over 50 years. I've run a business in this town for over 50 years. And I spent 30 years on the planning board, 15 years on the zoning board of adjustments. I got the town $515,000 for the APRA funds so that we could do projects in this town, and we've done very good with the money. We've spent it properly. We basically worked on trying to get this money for things that the voters would never be able to spend for. I also have worked with Janet Stevens and Nancy Stiles in reference to 108 intersection, and it looks like it's going to be a go. I'm a commissioner on that, and the completion date on that will be 2026. I worked with Diane, and we got the Marshall House roof repaired. We also turned around with Diane. We got the library roof repaired because they all had leaks. And also, what was the other one? Oh, I worked with Mary Jo and got her floor done, but apparently the building's sinking. So it's not as level as it was when it was completed. So we're looking at probably a new complex down the road. We have approximately $2.4 million in the unexpended fund balance. I don't like touching that because I think that that could be used for at least a down payment on a new structure with a library. There's rumor out there that it's possible we may be able to get a little more land at 8 Merrimack Road to put this structure up. As a selectman, I turned around and I had $100,000 put into the town building fund, and my plans with that money was to turn around and re-side and fix the windows at the police station. If you go look at the police station, you'll see the bottom of the building's all rotted, and it's getting infested with insects as well as mice and whatever else is getting in there. And we're spending quite a bit of money doing, having the pest company come down and kill them off, and they just keep coming back and coming back. But I enjoy the job. I've done it before. I'm also your state representative, and this is my third term as state representative, and all I do is try and protect the town of Newton.
Thank you. So, with that said, we're open for questions. Ms. Gagner.
In the past 2 years...
Hang on, Lisa, just one second. We're going to start and go that way, so...
Okay.
You're up first.
I thought we were going the other way.
You ready?
Just a little warning. Go ahead, dear.
I'm good.
All right, and this is for everyone. In the past 2 years, we have had selectmen that have not shown up for meetings, even though they acknowledged when they were running for the position that there was a requirement for up to 30 hours a week effort and stated that they were able to meet that commitment. What is your opinion of adding to the selectmen bylaws that any selectman who misses 2 meetings in a row forfeits their stipend portion for that month?
So, I agree, there's an attendance problem. And I guess, would you say missing in person, Zoom? Because now they have Zoom, so.
In person, if you're not present.
So you're saying you want people here more than 2 times in a row?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's fine. I'd be for that. That wouldn't bother me at all. I manage my time very well. I wouldn't have any issues doing that. I obviously would have to resign from the planning board if I was elected, and just so everybody knows, I already have somebody that is willing to step in and do that, and I was making sure of that before I ran, that I had somebody else to fill my role on planning board. But no issue with that.
Mr. Aiello.
I have no issue with that. I do have an issue with selectmen not showing up for multiple meetings in a row. That's unacceptable. They should just resign if they can't do it. We all, though, have to realize that we have families and vacations, so a selectman's probably going to miss 1 meeting or 2 a year. 2 in a row, take the stipend away, that's fine. I would agree with that.
Mr. Conway.
So one, I think there'd be legal challenges to that. So put that aside. Number 2, a selectman shows up, he participates via Zoom just as much as he does in person. So if you include Zoom into that, I would agree. No, I'm just saying, if you did, I'd be all favor for it. But to not include that and ask people, qualified people, to come up and to take these seats, I think that's a hindrance to get qualified people.
Then that's why it's an opinion.
Yep.
Your opinion is that that should include Zoom meetings. Zoom
It should.
meetings are like a non-attendance, is what
Nope,
you're saying.
I think Zoom meetings is attendance.
Oh, so did I.
Oh, I thought you said no, so I apologize.
No, I said Zoom was not included in the missed meeting.
Then it's-
They were present.
It wasn't clear.
Wasn't clear.
It wasn't clear.
On Zoom, they're present, they're participating.
Yeah, because, okay, so I would say I'm in favor of that. Yep.
Mr. Simone.
First off, I agree with Selectman Conley that I believe there would be some legal challenges to that. However, that being said, for the past couple of years, I've sat here through meetings where we've had a selectman maybe show up for one meeting but be on Zoom the whole time, and I think that's totally inappropriate. They should not have taken the job because of that. But in terms of, I am for it and I'm not for it, but I don't want to give a yes or no answer, but I also think that that's something that there will be a legal challenge to.
It's not a yes or no question.
Okay.
It is, what is your opinion? Maybe you have a different idea as to consequences.
I don't think the selectmen take this position for the salary that's put forward. I think it adds up to.
I thought that's why you were running.
I didn't know that. I heard that it's like $3,500 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, $3,500
not even
a
that
year.
much,
So
Joe.
if you break that down, I mean, I think I make more as a trustee of the trust fund, I guess, and on a per hour basis than doing that. I think that's something that could be looked at is in terms of consequences. I'm not totally for it, I'm not totally against it, but my opinion is I think it's something that could be taken into consideration.
Mr. Melvin.
Okay, in my first term as selectman, I never missed a meeting. In my second term, I missed 3 meetings. The job is definitely, you're underpaid. So to take somebody's money away because they missed 2 meetings, they could be ill, they could be in the hospital. Why would you want to take it away? I know we have a certain situation where an individual was asked not to come to the meetings, and that's why he didn't come to the meetings.
Okay, next question.
So I'm going to state the obvious. The dynamics on the Board of Selectmen are deplorable. They're really bad. So if you get elected to that, I want to know what each one of you plans to do to make a difference, because some of you mentioned you were business owners, and without the dynamics working on your team, you wouldn't have a business. So I think you understand something about teamwork.
Mr. Ayala, you're going to take that one first, and then we're going to go around the loop.
Yeah, the Board of Selectmen have to work together. We have to work with the townspeople too. What you guys want, we have to, make it happen. We all need to work together. We all need to get along. Really, there's no other way that this could work.
Do you have any ideas? I'm looking for ideas to clarify it. Like, what ideas do you have for how you're going to change the dynamics? And I'm sorry, I should have given you a few more minutes to think about that.
Yeah, I have to think about that.
Okay.
I don't really know how you're going to fix the problems. I don't really know all the deep problems. I've been to all the meetings in the last year, either in person or on Zoom. There were problems, but to pinpoint exactly what they are, it's going to be hard to do.
Mr. Connolly.
Yeah, so when I started, one of the things I talked about was the culture and the climate. And it is not the healthiest. So state the obvious.
Yep.
And with the town administrator that we hired, he got it. And so work to pull people together instead of letting people pull people apart. And creating a less, let me choose my words correctly here, a less potentially negative environment. I've had multiple conversations with some people in this town, and I've been thanked for the way I think and try to do things. Some of it you don't see, it's non-public, especially when you're trying to change a climate, whether it's in a business or a town. But politeness goes a lot further, and I will continue to carry that flag. And you will not see it, and I will promise you this, you will not see it as much in public, but those that have gotten to know me are starting to really understand what I'm talking about.
Mr. Simone.
Yes, thank you for that question, because this is something that I've been I've been preaching to the Board of Selectmen, I think for maybe a little over a year now. I think I started last November. I talked about the culture of the town needs to change. Reason being is the way things were done 2 years ago, 3 years ago, are not necessarily the way that they should have been done. We need to move into the 22nd century. We've been doing things the way we've done them for 10 years, i.e. the problem which was found with the recent budget. Typical situation. Everybody just went along, this is the way we're doing it. I've been calling for the culture change, like I said, since last November. And it's really interesting that I think since that time, I've heard that maybe 4 or 5, 6 times from various people, you know, stating the same word, culture change. So I'm glad that that's finally permeated it's permeated to people. The other thing too is we all need to work at a collaborative effort. We're working for the town, we're working for you folks, we're working for the residents. Vendettas need to be put aside. Things that happened in the past need to be put aside. We need to work for the betterment of the town. We're all in this together, because if we don't do it, we're going to be in big trouble.
Amen, Joe.
Mr. Melvin.
Well, Kimmy, I gotta tell you, you're not gonna get 5 people to agree all the time, to be honest with you. Most of the time, I get along with them, with the rest of the board. We know that if there's something that I don't think that's right, I'm gonna bring it up. It's that simple.
So the
Follow-up question.
Yeah, sorry,
It's going to go around again,
Yeah.
starting, okay.
Just, this
Well,
is,
Dan's got to get,
Oh,
let's,
sorry.
before we get to the follow-up question,
oh,
let's
is
let
that-
Dan answer this
Was
question.
that the end of what
Yeah.
you wanted to
Yeah, I
say?
know.
Okay, sorry.
Well, hold on, we've also got a bunch of people behind you.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Mr. Guy, why don't you answer that
So
first
your
question?
question's fantastic, but you know what it is? It's up to all the voters. You've seen these people, some of them for 3+ years, 10, 15 years. You know how they act. It's not going to change, right? So it's up to the voters to put different people in the places to work together. It's never going to be perfect. It just isn't, right? I can tell you that I can work with anybody. One vote is very different from the next vote. I don't carry this vote to my next vote, right? So if I was advocating for something and the vote didn't go my way, it doesn't carry to the next vote or the next meeting. It's done. It's over with. Move on to the next thing. But yeah, it's really, to change the culture, it really is going to come down to the voters putting different people in those positions. I can preach what I'm going to do, but I can't control what other 4 people are going to do.
So you're
You
saying,
see how they act for 3 years, sorry. If you see how they act for 3 years and you don't like the way they act, it's up to the voters to replace that person when their term's up. That's my opinion on this question.
Quick follow-up question, and then we're going to get to the next question.
that's okay.
You good?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think that's good.
good. Ms. McCullough.
Hello again. Okay, I'm not only your town clerk, I am also your tax collector. And as your tax collector, I am confronted almost daily about the amount of taxes people pay to this town. One thing, the one phrase I absolutely hate is, I give you $10,000 a year from my taxes and I get nothing in return. I have I'm curious to know, and we'll start wherever, if you know the actual percentage of your tax dollar that comes to the town of Newton and how much the percentage goes to the school. There are actually 2 other entities, there's the state education and the county, but those are minimal. So do you know the percentage? What comes to the town and what goes to the school?
Mr. Conlon.
So,
And I want to just preface that with the
Okay.
reason why I'm asking is because lately, out on social media, you know, where everybody gets their news.
oh, that's the gospel.
There is a lot of talk about the budget,
Yep.
which we are in a budget crisis, in my opinion, and why people should vote no, 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 because, you know, all your money comes to the town and we waste it. So again, this is why I want to know if you know the percentages of what goes where.
So the percentage is under 20%. And I think it's roughly, I don't have it on top of my head, but I think it's like 18%. I might
I'm
be-
going to answer when you're all done.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going to
no,
give
no.
everybody a chance. This is a quiz, pop
No,
quiz.
no, no. And I think this is very, very important for people to understand in the town and here, right? There's pros and cons. Whatever you vote for, there's pros and cons to it. Even our budget, as you see a large increase, right? It comes because cost is. You go buy eggs, your electricity, I know, I get complaints every day. Prices are up, right? But we're talking about an increase on under 20% of your entire tax bill. I want that to sink in. When you look at your bill, as MJ said to us, always remember, the majority doesn't come to this town. It goes elsewhere. So I might be off on my percentage, but I think I'm roughly there.
Mr. Simone.
Good question. I'm not a big one on social media because I think it's just a bunch of people that are hiding behind a computer screen. But in any event, I think the numbers you're looking for are probably 74% goes to the school, 17 to the town, 8 to the state, and 4 to the county. With that all said and done, one of the things I like to do is I like to bring in our state reps and our county commissioners and ask them, say, listen, we need some relief here. You guys just can't keep pushing down, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. Where's the money coming from? Because they do that. I mean, we're gonna have a problem next year. We're gonna have to buy new radios for the police department because Rockingham County says we're doing this. Where's the money coming from? We need some relief. But for that money that the residents give us, we give them fire, police, road, infrastructure services for lights, heat, internet, all those things that we need to run a business. So that's where that thing is.
I'm going to say roughly, because I don't know the exact figures, I'm going to say roughly 80% goes to the school, 15% goes to the town, and 5% goes to the county.
Mr. Guy.
72.4, I believe, goes to the school. With that said, I will say, so I was on the school budget committee, so the school's budget is up 3.73%. And I will say, like, I get it, it is the lowest percentage increase in this area. Timberlane's 9%, Derry's like 12%. I mean, we tried to keep it down. I understand more than most where the most of our taxes is going. I completely understand. I have 2 properties in Plastow. I have no say in this at all. The budget is up 10%. I have no say, and that budget is it is ridiculous. And it's possibly an extra $2,000 a year per property. Yeah, and I have no say at that town at all. So I completely understand the issue when it comes to my taxes are too high, why, and I say it's really the school, not the town. And it's unfortunate because I hold the position that dictates that, but it's not like you can't just walk in and cut it. You can't. But I understand. I do. So how close was everybody?
Wait, Mr. Aiello.
Oh. Steal my number.
Got it.
Don't steal my number.
I actually thought it was 74% for the school and 16% for the town. But could be off.
Okay.
Okay, Mary Jo, fill us in.
School is 74%. County is 4%. The state education is 6%, and you really don't want to know where that money goes. And municipal is 17%. I'm going to take that one step further. So if your assessment is at $300,000,
That's math.
out of that money that we tax you for, your tax bill is going to be $6,747. And out of that money, you're going to give the town $1,119 to do exactly what you said. From the police, the fire, the library, the roads, the infrastructure, every building, every electric bill, every internet, every phone, every salary, every benefit, every insurance payment that this town comes across. And every freaking paperclip. No paperclips. Okay? That is what your money goes to, and I just want the people to understand this, so when they say vote no on everything, they are not just hurting the school, they are hurting us, and they are hurting us badly, because as Mr. Pabero said, we have been tasked year after year to drop our budgets 2%. 2%, 2%. So when you drop a budget for 2% every year, sooner or later, you gotta play catch up. This is the year, and if budgets do not pass, I do understand there are consequences for your vote. And I hate to see what the consequences will be if we don't get the money we need to run the town. Okay, so don't yell at me about your taxes. I pay them too.
Mr. Summer.
Good evening. If you don't know me, I'm James Summers. I live here in Newton, and my question actually pertains to just what we were just talking about, taxes. And I think the question I have for each of you is that last year, in fact, we just opened up our tax bills this last December, and I believe all of us saw an average increase of $1,000 per year on our property taxes. Now that this new budget is coming out, and I believe the number is $1.63 per thousand, I believe is the increase they're looking for the budget increase. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that would, with the proposed warrants, and granted the last 3 years every warrant's passed, so it hasn't been really an issue with it, so figuring out mathematically, but with another $1,300 average per resident per year, that'd be $2,300 per year, or about almost 22% of their entire property tax bill just in the last 2 years is what it's increased. So my question is, out of those selectmen, I believe the vote was 3-1 in favor of this $1.63 per thousand, which, by the way, I did see the tax chart about the so much per thousand, and it was posted on the town website today, and it did go down. You saw it go down, but that's also because they reassessed all of our homes, and our homes almost doubled in value, which you probably already know. And that's why it went from 26 down to 22, 23, something like that, 24. So my question is, with 3-1 selectmen selecting for this, budget ought to pass as a warrant. If you're the selectman, you're in that position at this going time right now, would you be in favor of it? Why or why not?
Mr. Simone.
I'm going to say right now that I will be in favor of the budget, only because for the past 10 years, I've seen the selectmen tell the department heads, cut your budget, cut your budget, cut your budget, cut your budget. And what that has happened, and someone mentioned, we're in a catch-up year right now. Our infrastructure has fallen apart. We can't offer our employees the monies that they need to be adequately compensated to be equal to other towns and everything. Like I said, our infrastructure is suffering. You've heard the road agent say that operating expenses have gone up. Operating expenses have gone up for the town as well. If this budget doesn't pass, we're going to be in serious, serious consequences. And I can akin it to, if you have a problem at your house and you just say you have a fascia board that you think it's rotting out, you don't pay attention to it, you don't pay attention to it. The third year, all of a sudden you got a spot in your ceiling. I'll get to it. All of a sudden the ceiling's going to be coming down. You need to take care of your property, and you need to do that in an equitable way. And I've been to a lot of budget meetings this year. I've talked to a lot of department heads. They're at bare bones. And if you can do something better, I would put it on you. You come and see what you can do, how you can do it. You might want to walk in their shoes. They're at bare bones, believe me.
Mr. Melvin.
I'm the one that voted no against the budget. I cannot see an increase of $700,000, to be honest with you, in the town budget. I spoke with the road agent last year, and I told him to increase his budget. He did not increase his budget, and now we're paying for it. Our police department is going up $251,000. And out of that 251,000, well, out of his last year's budget, he gave back 90,000. And the road agent is basically looking in his budget, because I told him I'd support his budget, if he was putting the money into the hot top. He put an additional $55,000 into rental fees. That's why I did it. That's why I voted no, and I'll vote no again. And I asked my people to vote no. This place is to get the money if we go into the default budget. But we just can't let them just throw these numbers out there and expect the taxpayers to pay for it.
Mr. Gunn.
I watched the budget meetings when they were reviewing the budget. I don't think that they were just throwing numbers out there. I think that they were well thought out budgets. They're still facing I am in favor of this budget. They're still facing an employment problem, a huge one. So much, in fact, we had to hire one of our selectmen to work at the transfer station. So we need to do something. The path that we're going on, down, 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 wasn't working. It's got to go up. Whether 700,000 increase is the right number or not, it's going to go up. Point me to one direction where it doesn't go up. It doesn't. It always goes up. You can level fund in a good year, not in the, worst inflation in 15 years or longer. You can't go down. It's just not going to happen. But yeah, I would vote yes.
Mr. Aiello.
I'm not in favor of the default budget, or the town budget going up every year. Reality is we all took that hit this year, and it's going to happen again and again. I would like to find other ways to supplement that instead of, if we can bring in tax revenue from somewhere else, then the tax burden isn't on the taxpayers. That's where I would like to see where I can figure out ways of doing that. But if the budget has to go up, it has to go up. There's no way to fix that.
Mr. Conway.
So I am in favor. I am one of the yes votes. When those budgets were put in front of us, department head after department head came in front of us and said, the number one thing was getting employees. Cost of living has gone up. We're competing not only against other towns here in New Hampshire, we're a border town. You're competing against Massachusetts, like it or not. That's the fact. Massachusetts raised its minimum wage. Maine raised their minimum wage. We are still at
50.
50?
750.
Yep, really. So it's real, trying to get qualified. I am not going to put a warm body or a body that's going to come in here and create chaos in this town. I am looking for qualified bodies. To get qualified bodies means you need to compete, which means you need salary. So that's one issue. The other issue is, if you look at the budget, is additional bodies are needed. I am not in favor for getting another call to find out that one of our officers was put in harm's way, because there is no backup at night. And we had to wait for another town to dispatch while that officer stood in a doorway for a domestic issue, and he was looking at the other person with a shotgun. We need additional people riding in the cruises. We need additional help. When you talk to the fire chief, and I hope you do on the way out of here, talk to him about his call volume going up and about the constant need to get people that are EMTs or firemen to come here. And we're not close to the wage. He's being outmarketed by other towns. The police department, outmarketed by other towns. There are signing bonuses out there, folks, for people to go into the police department. That's what we're competing against. So you run this town like a municipality, but you also have to run it like a business. You have to keep up with your competition. Do I want to pay more taxes? The answer is no, right? I've got one in college, one going to college. Do you think I want to be taking out of my pocket? I have gone and talked to the people, Sergeant Woods, right? And I got blasted on social media because they just want to save money. They don't want their taxes to go up. Talk to them about what's going to happen. If at 11 o'clock at night we have no police officer on because we have to strip back, right? If we don't pass this budget, that's fine. We're going to take some tough decisions. What are we going to take away? Because I can't take away salary, but we're going to have to take away some services. and that's going to stink. But there's a cost to that. It may cost a life because we don't have the quickest response, and that's not something I personally want to deal with. So the reality is we're in a tough spot. However the town votes is how they vote. We'll move forward in that direction. I am for putting up an operating budget or a budget in place, but also because there was a correction made, and that correction shows you the actual default versus what we're asking for, instead of the way it was done in the past. I hope that answers your question.
Do a quick follow-up?
If it's really quick.
Really quick follow-up. You can also answer really fast. So counting with the average property taxes in town being right around $10,000 plus or minus 500, it's about 9,600 to 10,500, and with this past December going up 1,000, and now you're looking to go up another average 1,400 more. So in just last year and this year, you're going up 25% of homeowners' entire property taxes in that short a period of time. I understand you need to increase stuff. Do you believe we need to do all of this at once and we can't break it up to be smaller than that?
That one's going to start at Mr. Melvin because we're kind of rotating.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the first 2 years of my term, we came in with a balanced budget, both years. But we probably shouldn't have. What we should have had is when I asked department heads to increase their budget because it was a good year, it should have happened, and it didn't happen.
The line here, no, she knows.
If I can I ask Mary Jo, are those numbers correct?
No.
I didn't think so. Thank you.
Because I've been following, like I said, social media, people throw numbers out, I immediately go check. Check your math, James. Yeah. Check your math.
They didn't sound right, that's why.
I can put taxes in public record, anybody can go look them up.
Okay.
I don't remember what your question was, because once you said those numbers, I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah, it didn't
Sorry.
make sense.
What was your question?
Maybe I can help for a second because it would be helpful if everybody has the same set of facts. What is the warrant? Somebody's got a copy of the warrant. What's the tax impact of the budget on the warrant? It's right on the warrant. Anybody got the warrant? We should be able to read it off.
Something.
Yeah.
It's probably on the ballot. I might be able to get you the.
Yeah.
86 cents. I'm sorry, that is on the default. 1.21, $1.21.
Right, it's $1.21 per thousand is the impact of the.
Yeah, but the fact that you're saying that your taxes went up in December $1,000.
$1,000, but that would include school and everything.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. So the numbers aren't, those aren't sounding right, and I don't have them in front of me, so I apologize.
Yeah, I don't have it in front
So
of me.
let's get the number, because we got a table full of people who should be able to do math. So right now, it says on the warrant that it's going to be a tax impact, right, of $1.21 per thousand of assessed value. $300,000 home is $300 times 121, right?
Here you've got 400.
So at 400,000, it's what, 483?
483.
And at 340,000, it's 411. And at 280,000, it's 338. Those are the numbers. And that's
The
not counting
average
the
tax bill in
school
town
contribution.
is about $8,000. That's your average, okay? That's your average. The average, it went up last year, was about 600, and that was on a very high assessed property. Like I said, taxes are public record. You can look them up.
Right, so then I guess, sorry, he was in mid-question. So the question is, based on whatever the tax impact is, could it be spread out?
Yeah.
Right? And that number is going to be depending on what your house costs, it's going to be in the order of 300 and something bucks plus the school impact, which I'll bet Dan knows. Dan, what's the school
No,
impact?
I don't know. Dawn might know. I don't remember what it is, to be honest with you.
I don't know the question anymore.
Could you spread it out? Yeah, I guess if I could, I would.
Do you know the
That's my
question
answer.
anymore?
Not really.
Yeah, I mean, that's a small amount, and it doesn't seem like it was that big.
I can't answer because I don't know what the question is anymore. My taxes
It's
are
$300.
Shall we move on? Are you okay with moving on? Why don't we take your question, and then we're going to take a Zoom question. So next question, so we keep going here.
Hi, guys, I'm Tammy Gluck. So I just wanted to thank all of you for being here to entertain us this evening. And thank Mary Jo for her question and clarifying. And the 74% of our tax bill does go to the school district. And one of the reasons why that's so high is because the state, in their adequacy aid, only pays $3,800 towards public education in New Hampshire. That's the average figure. And it costs about $17,000 per student on average to educate a student in New Hampshire. So one of the ways Joe had mentioned is to maybe get our representatives here in this room and talk with them, and how can we get more money to come from the state to help fund public education. So that's something I would be interested in us pursuing, whoever is elected as a selectman. So I think that's great. But that's not my question. So my question is, in your opening statements, you all expressed concerns about budget challenges. We're hearing everybody's comments about that, and what we face at home and what we face as a town in increased cost for things. One of the biggest challenges facing New Hampshire right now is the graying of New Hampshire and the cost of housing, and specifically affordable housing and workforce housing and all of those things. There's a grant money available right now through Invest New Hampshire, and I see that Newton was awarded a housing opportunity planning grant to study planning for housing and additional housing in our town. So I'm wondering what all of your opinions are on expanding affordable workforce housing in Newton.
Thank you for your, can I go? Do you need to point at me?
I think we have wrapped ourselves around to.
Yeah, we're back.
We're back to the beginning,
Back
Dan,
to
so
me?
you're on
All right.
first, you bet.
I'm glad you hit me first. I'm on the planning board. And our circuit rider, Jen Rowden, is awesome, and she's the one who secured those grants for us. So what it's going to do is their company is going to come in and go over our whole development plan, like as a giant town, right? So part of it, I know you said HUD and all that other stuff, but
No, not HUD. HUD
well,
is
not
not
HUD, but workforce
Very
housing,
different.
stuff like that. But part of that planning, I'm going to steer away a little bit, is to, at its minimum, is for them to look at our planning policies, and to possibly, there'll be a public meeting, everybody, to allow a second dwelling on your property that can be an actual house. We don't let people do that right now. Detached dwellings is not a thing in Newton. If you have one, you had it long before it was allowed or whatever. So that's one of the small things. The other part is workforce housing. We have the grant, they're gonna look at it where, I have no idea. Am I in favor of it? When it's explained to me from her point of view, yes, I am, because it's not
what people
Section
think.
8. It's
Exactly.
not. It's
not.
literally, these people build these houses, they have to hold their rent at a certain value for so many years because the state is giving them a tax break to do it.
Right.
And that's what it is. So it's not like, that's the best way I can put it. It's not Section 8. They're very nice apartments. I've seen them, and they're held to a certain rent that they have to charge for a certain amount of years. It may only be 5 years, and then after that, they can charge whatever they want. That's the other part of this, is it's not locked in for that rent.
Meaning the developer or the property
developer
owner.
can raise
Right,
it.
right.
So after that 5 years or 10 years, whatever they decide on, that's part of it. They can raise that after that. But that's what workforce housing is. It is not a Section 8 type of housing where they come in and subsidize or anything
So
like that.
you are in support of.
Oh, yes.
If we could develop more of that here and make it more.
Absolutely, as long as the education comes with it.
Right.
Because people need to understand that it's not what the scare tactics are with it. It's not, you know? But yes, I am in favor of it, with the education. So everybody knows that it's not Section 8
Thank you.
type of housing.
I am in favor of it too. I believe that a couple of years ago, there was a warrant article that didn't pass over workforce housing, but I am in favor of it.
Mr. Connolly?
Yeah, complicated question.
It is, yes. You probably know why I'm asking it, too.
Educated man, I think I understand.
Yeah.
Here's what I would go back to. I'm for developing the town properly, whether it's business, workforce housing, whatever, as long as the infrastructure is there.
Yeah.
Right? So we want lower taxes, and we do, we all vote, right? And the vote has come back, but we don't want a lot of commercial business in town. Okay, so that means the burden goes back onto the residential, right? So workforce housing can have an effect. I know that it's something the governor is pushing. It's being pushed out of Concord. I get it. I'm not sure if we were to move forward in that direction that we would have the services in this town to support that. And that predominantly being, Mike's hair's already pulled out, so the road structure that would go along with it. But our police, so our public servants, our fire, we would also have to say back to the town, if this budget doesn't happen, if we go forward in that direction, we need to now start building up the infrastructure for that.
And negotiate possibly with a developer on providing some funds, because I know those are things that sometimes
Correct.
happen with developers when they can
But
have
if it
approvals.
doesn't happen with the developer, it
Right.
falls back to the town.
It does, right.
So I need to make it very clear, I would start with the infrastructure, and if I get something from the developer, it's reimbursing what we've already put in place, right? And I'm for that, but I need us to understand the impact it has to our police and our fire. And when you talk to the chief of fire, you'll talk to him about his call volume going up.
Yeah.
We're not a town getting younger.
No, the
during-
graying of New Hampshire, we're graying.
During the session that they had on workforce housing, one of the gentlemen from Sergeant Woods got up and said, let's face it, when I leave this town, I'm leaving in a casket. We don't have the youngest generation. My thinking is, if we do it with a proper infrastructure. Otherwise, we're not going to have we are not going to have people wanting to come work for this town.
Mr. Simone?
Yes, I'd have to say right now, I do not have enough information on it because it's just being pushed down on us. And once again, as they push stuff down on us, who's going to pay for it? I have a big concern with the infrastructure, as Selectman Conley mentioned. We don't have the infrastructure in place right now. And without that infrastructure, they can put all the workforce housing as they're giving them tax breaks. We're not being compensated. How is that going to affect our school system? We're already saying right now that the school system is out of control. So how's that going to affect that? A lot of these things have not been explained to us.
I don't think our school budget's out of control. I think the way New Hampshire funds education is out of control, and that needs to be fixed. But I say that whenever I get a chance.
That's a whole nother story. I mean, I could say that why did the school spend $500,000, I think that's what I heard, putting a new lighting system in the auditorium, when that money could have been maybe brought back to Kingston and Newton to help reduce the tax rates. I haven't got an honest answer on that one yet as to why that happened, but I'm just editorializing there. However, we have to be concerned about the infrastructure because next year we have coming up a situation which we never had before, where we may have to be contracted for ambulance service, which we haven't in the past.
Right.
And that's going to cost probably $250,000. Where's that money coming from? How are we going to budget for that? Who's going to pay for that? So there's a lot of things that, the state can say, yes, you're going to do this, we're going to give these guys tax breaks, but what about the poor town of Newton? How are we going to survive to support that infrastructure?
Mr.
So
Mellon?
I think I need a little more education on it.
Thank you, Joe. Mr. Mellon?
Okay, I oppose workforce housing. I'm the one that put that warrant article in against it. And my reason is behind it is, number one, we don't have the water. If you check around town, ask people, you'll find out that a lot of wells go dry in the summertime. Down by the library here, that well's 1,200 feet deep. Down on Felicia Drive, them are 1,200 feet deep. And they're not getting what they really would want to get for. They're getting 3 to 5 gallons, and they would like 10 gallons. There's places that do have a lot of it, but to turn around and put more than one structure, I don't have a problem with in-law apartments or accessory apartments, but to turn around and put second houses on the same lot, you're going to have another septic system to cover it. In the house right now, there's a bill to put 4 houses on a single lot, and they don't care what the size of it is. So it's going to hurt us also as well as in the school, because we're going to have more kids in the school. It's going to cost us more money. And these structures that we put up, they're not going to balance off. Besides that is these people will not be working in New Hampshire. They'll go across the
That's
border.
not true.
They will
In
not
order
be
to
working.
qualify for workforce housing, that's not true.
You're saying that they're going to work in the state?
Read, yeah, they have to.
Why
work
would you work in the state?
You'd have to work in the
That's
county.
part of the housing.
Part of it, what workforce housing is.
That's part of being able to live in that rent-controlled
Right.
area.
You have to,
is you have to work in
do
New
your
Hampshire.
homework and learn more about it before you say things like that.
Well, I do know quite a bit about it.
Shoot yourself in the foot. Right.
Well, I'll just say on behalf of freedom in our country, the idea that you're going to require somebody to work in a given place in order to have a house is really repugnant. I mean, to me.
Well, you don't own it. It's rental. You're agreeing to a lower rent to work in New Hampshire, whether it's 5 years or whatever. But that's part of. That's what it is. That's correct.
crazy.
It's part of your compensation.
Yeah, let's take the Zoom call and then we'll get back to the rest of the people. Let's take our question from the Zoom person.
I think they should stand in line like the rest of them.
They have been in line for a long time. They still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Thanks for waiting, Anthony. Go ahead.
No worries. I would like to ask everybody, how much hands-on experience do you have in government on a scale of, say, 0 days to 100 years, like Charlie? And in your answer, please feel free to describe your detailed experience advocating for a municipality at the regional, state, or federal level, and how that experience might be used to improve Newton or address major issues that may be facing the community within the next few years.
Okay, I'm going to summarize that question to make sure we got it because it's a little hard to hear over Zoom. The question is basically how much experience have you had in local, state, or federal government, or how much personal experience you have in governmental process. If that's a good summary, close enough?
Yeah, that
Close enough, all right. So,
this is bullshit, man. I don't know if you keep clicking, right? If you can fucking,
We'll see.
all right, well,
I like that.
I'm not happy on Zoom.
That's Coleman.
I'm with him.
Yeah, you could just mute them.
Just so you guys know, that was not me. I was muted.
Mr. Coleman, we can hear you on your phone. That's why I am muting you.
Yeah, hi.
yes, my name's Coleman McDonough.
Listen, Mr. Coleman, we can hear you when you're on the phone. That right there, I am muting you.
Okay, I've been trying to talk for like
Well,
the last.
you need to raise your hand, and then we will acknowledge you. I am putting you back on mute, and you can raise your hand.
Who's starting
Okay,
this
so
round?
it sounds like we have another pending Zoom question. And let's take that one and kind of circle through it, and let's try to get quick answers. Speed it up.
I have zero government experience, but this is my start. Everybody had zero experience at one point, so this is where I'm starting.
I think I'm close to 9 or 10 years. I started out on the zoning board of appeals. I ended up being the vice chairman on that board for a while, and then became a selectman. So I'm probably around a 9-ish, 10-year period.
Mr. Simone.
Well, number one, I'm not running for Congress, I'm not running for Senate, so I really don't have all of that municipal, state, federal experience. However, what I can say, I am like a lot of us up here, we're volunteers. We've been volunteering in a lot of capacities over the years in various commissions, in various boards. Charlie indicated that he's been a public servant for almost, 30, 40 years? So I think a lot of what we do, a lot of what we do that I see doing is a lot of transparency, common sense, and working collaboratively. I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Mallon.
I'm probably at 95%.
Yeah, a long time.
A long time.
You can tell by the gray hair, those of us who've been around for a while. Mr. Guy.
2 years on Timberlake School Board, a year on Planning Board, a year on Budget Committee, and various other volunteer within the government.
All right, let's take an in-person question, and then shall we take another Zoom question? Fair enough? All right, in person.
I'm gonna ask a question.
So this is around the budget, and something that Charlie said, I realized I thought I was staying up on the budget and understanding what was going on, but when you made the comment about you asked to have someone increase their budget at the time, I didn't understand that. So I think the communication, so I do stay as much as I can up on my emails. I get the Board of Selectmen meetings. There's definitely, the information is not getting out to people. So it seems to be a communication challenge to the town, and we don't have a central location like Plastow has, that's true. So my question is, what would you do to increase the communication and get the word out to the town when you're trying to, for example, pull people together to hear more about, like, the master plan, which is where the housing, when that first came about, we had a town meeting to talk about the master plan and whether that would work or not, and the selectmen also participate in that. The town has grown substantially, and I think it's become more disconnected.
Yep.
Mr. Conlon.
So I'll start. It started, what can I say that's under non-public? All right, so I had I'm going to go back to last Friday when I had a conversation with people at Sergeant Woods. I went up there, and we had a handful of people, wasn't many, but the same questions started coming out. And so I am now working with our acting town administrator right now. I noticed an email should have gone out to the department heads today, asking them some questions. We're going to get a communication piece out. That is my goal by the end of next week, to let you know what the impact is on that budget, right? So from a department head standpoint, if it doesn't pass, okay, we're still stuck with running the town. But what is the impact?
I like this.
So it's the same thing we do every year in the private sector, which is, here's the budget. If we don't hit our numbers, right, we have a sales team.
Yep.
If we don't hit a sales team, what does that do? Where do we have to cut back? What can't we do? If we are, what does that mean, right? So I'm taking some of that practice, best practice, and trying to put it here. So, hey, Pete, you know, Pete that runs our transfer station, he does a great job down there. Hey, Pete, and I think Selectman Marshall might have left, but...
Oh, he's been in line.
No, he's in line.
Okay, so he's gonna drill me.
Yeah.
So he's the liaison, right? What is going to happen if, Pete, you don't get the money you asked for? Okay? Pete runs the transfer station. I don't expect him to understand every P&L and how it hits, but we're gonna work with him, and what does that mean? Does that mean that you don't give raises? Well, that's shooting yourself in the foot in an economy where people are getting outbid to go work for another town. Okay, so what does that mean? Does that mean there's less hours on Saturday, Sunday? Do we not do Tuesday, Thursday? We're gonna have to get creative, right? What does that mean, Police Chief Jewett, what does that mean? Does that mean we don't buy a car? Does that mean you don't have a third shift in town? What does that mean? And that's gonna have to go out to the public so that they can make an informed decision.
Yep.
So I'm actively working on that as we speak.
I love it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Simone.
Well, one of the things I'd like to see about getting more communication out is I'd like to have our website revamped so it's more user-friendly and contemporary. Right now, it's kind of like, if you look at it, it's kind of like what we've been doing the past 10 years, a little old-fashioned. Might have been good at the time, but it's a little old-fashioned. With that all being said and done, I think the selectmen probably once a month should give a 10-minute period of time where they can explain to the residents in attendance and via the media what they're working on, what's going on, what's happening. Now, the other thing too is, one of the things that I'd like to do is I'd like to institute some type of quarterly meetings with every department head, so we're all talking at the same time. I know we can only do it probably with two selectmen, because 3 would constitute a meeting. But if we do that on a rotating basis and talk to these people, at least once a quarter, hey, everybody comes in, put your gripes on the table, let's see what's going on. Another thing I like to see done down the road is if we can have some type of what do they call it, roundhouses, town meeting, something like that, that's not a selectmen's meeting, maybe twice a year. Invite whoever residents want to do it. We could do it down the town beach, we could do it at the fire station, or some other public venue, and just meet the selectmen, say, hey, what's going on? We do not have enough participation from people in town. If you take a look at it, you might say there's probably about 100 people that do about everything in town, and there's probably about 30 people that are wearing multiple hats. So we need to get more people involved in the process. It's nice to see this audience tonight. We wish we could have this at every selectmen's meeting.
Yeah, because it gets boring looking at 2 people staring at you the whole time.
Mr. Melvin.
You can look at the wall.
Now, Tim, I think your question was, what can we do? Well, to get the word out there.
Yeah.
Right now, there's $20 million that's floating around out there in a grant. And we could possibly get some of that to build a community center, because we don't have any. I'm trying to work with Trish McCarthy and Janet Stevens, our executive council, to see if we can get some of that money. And then we'll be able to, invite the people down there. I mean, they'll have a place to park, because if you do it at Greenie Park, they'll have a place to park. There's plenty of parking. You can't do it here. There's no parking.
Have we already been awarded that? Sorry, second question, sorry.
Yeah, well, let's get everybody on the first one first.
Go ahead. What was
No,
it?
I was just wondering, are you saying we were approved for that already? We have the money, or
No,
we'd have to apply for it?
we're going to be working on a grant.
Okay, that's great, yeah.
Mr. Guy.
So, since it's been through 1, 2, 3 people, your issues with communication to the townspeople, right?
Yeah, I think the question, just to rephrase the question.
That's what I mean.
What would be the things you would do if you were on the Board of Selectmen to improve the communication between the board and the town, the community?
Right? Yeah? Okay. So, as a couple of the selectmen have already stated, the town is aging, right? Or it's older. Facebook doesn't work. Mary Jo, she puts things out on Facebook. I share them to try to get them out to everybody. Unfortunately, in my business that I'm in, I have to hit everybody too. The best way to hit the older population is mail. It is. I can see that, and you can ask Mr. Fitzpatrick, when the planning board sends out mailers, everybody shows up. They don't show up if you just blast something or say something during one of these Zoom meetings. It doesn't happen. So whether that be sending out a quarterly mailer of what's going on in the town, upcoming meetings, 4 times a year, something like that, I can totally get behind that. It's not that expensive, and if it's gonna get more town involvement, it's gonna be worth it. Because this is probably the second time I've been in here when I've had the most people. First time was the planning board meeting, was my very first meeting. This room was completely full. So we need more people to get involved, whether that's mailers or not. Sorry, go ahead.
It's all right. No, I'm just Mr. Aiello.
Yeah, I'm here for the selectmen meetings. It's me, my wife, Simone. Joe Simone's usually here. There's a couple, maybe 3 or 4 people in the crowd. Nobody from town shows up. It's the same as voting. You're getting 20% turnout. 10%, a little over 10% of the town is making up all the decisions for the town. As far as getting people there, yeah, social media is probably not going to be the way to do it. Everybody can sign up for the email to get emails. I get all the emails. I think people see them and just don't do anything with them. Really not sure. Mailing, I guess, is one way, or newspaper, but I don't know what the best way to do it is. I'd love to just drive around, round everybody up, and bring them to vote. I'm offering to drive people. If they need a ride, I'll bring you there. I want everybody to go vote.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pavero.
You want to do Zoom?
Oh, wait, we're going to do a Zoom one. Yeah, let's pick up one of those Zoom calls. Got a Zoom question pending?
Yeah, sorry, me again.
Give someone else a chance.
You're going to need to speak up a little for us so we can hear you, please.
Sure, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm wondering if any of the selectmen have a current pending or outstanding issue with the town on its boards or departments that could be considered a conflict of interest if elected. For example, something like an illegal in-law apartment.
Okay, did you hear the question? Okay, the question, and correct me if I got it wrong, but the question, as far as I heard it, was, the question was for each of the candidates, do you have any kind of issue which would be a conflict of interest with the town, such as an illegal in-law apartment or something like that? I think Mr. Simone, I think it's Mr. or Mr. Connolly, I've kind of lost track of where we are.
No,
Me, right? Oh, you? Okay, go.
I already
Sorry.
said it, no.
No, good. Yes.
I'm going to say no.
I'm a no.
No.
I have no conflict.
Mr. Melvin?
I said no.
Okay, I think we got no's from everybody, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Am I getting a question written to me?
No.
Oh. Okay. So, are we set with the? Okay.
Coleman, you need to put your hand up through the app.
Right. Otherwise, we don't know if you want to
can't
ask
just
the question.
put your hand up. There's a button to push, and it shows a little hand on the thing, and then you're in line. Sorry, I can see it. And
Thank you. It's a good thing we got the young, high-tech guy who knows all the, tricks in Zoom. All right, Mr. Pavero.
He said you can't.
I know.
I just want you to know that Anthony's questions
I need to ask him
trip up
a little leniency on before I start asking the question.
Oh, God.
Here he comes.
He has a question for you.
So, Mr. Moderator, I'm going to ask a little leniency on this because I want to clarify something that was said, I don't know how long ago now,
Okay.
about the highway budget and the increase to the highway budget. And then I'm going to go right on to a question for all the selectmen.
That's fine.
Thank you, sir. Charlie, a little while ago,
Yep.
you made a statement that said the highway department has not asked for an increase in the budget.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, that's not what he said.
Huh?
It's not, I don't think
That's
what he
not what I
said.
said.
Keep going.
Oh, yeah, for 2 years. All right, so you asked me to increase the budget.
Yes, I
That's
did.
correct, that's what you said.
Yep.
In those 2 years, I did not. Now, I went to a podium on a selectmen's meeting 3 years ago, and you can pull up a record, and I said, the economy's good right now, we have to take the entire budget up. Do you remember that?
Yep.
You were a selectman, okay. The board still asked us to level fund. So I did what was requested of the board and level funded.
Not this person.
Okay, I'm gonna get to the meat of this thing. So this year, I've increased my budget. You said you were not in favor of the budget, and you said the highway department
Yep.
increased it because I put it into equipment rental.
Yep. And what did I tell you, Mike, when you brought your budget up? I said, Mike, I'd approve your budget if it was hot top, not rental.
Then you weren't paying attention at the budget meeting. Because I increased it in 4 line items, Charlie. This is the thing that has to stop with selectmen in general. Be accurate.
I am
Don't
accurate.
give misinformation to people.
You're giving the
There's a lot-
misinformation.
Oh, wait, I'm going to clarify this.
You're giving the misinformation.
No, I'm not. And you can pull out the proposed budget. I did it in 4 categories. Salary.
Salaries, yeah.
Okay. I did it
I didn't
in
touch that.
pavement. I
didn't
increased pavement.
$45,000?
No, it was more than that.
What was it?
I think it was 67 or $70,000 in pavement. Okay, we can pull the budget out
Yeah,
later.
pull it out.
Then I
no
did
problem.
it in equipment rentals.
55,000.
Yeah, and you know what that's for? 'Cause we discussed it thoroughly. That was for winter maintenance because the plow rates here in town were 27% lower than the surrounding areas. Do you remember that in the meeting?
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, so in order for me to keep plow guys here plowing in town, which Mike alluded to, the police department and other agencies here, you have to come up with the standards from the surrounding towns, or people won't do it. They're not gonna work for me because they just like me, Charlie.
Now, didn't you go up on your plow rates?
I did.
See?
That's why the equipment rental rate went up.
It shouldn't be that much. It shouldn't be 55,000.
Charlie, we did the numbers in a budget meeting, so I wish you would be accurate to the
I am
people when you
accurate.
talk about it.
I am accurate. Or I wouldn't be saying it.
You're not, Charlie. You cherry pick
Well,
what you
that's
want
just you
people
and
to
me.
hear.
That's it.
Gentlemen,
So I'll go on to the next
Yeah, Mike,
part of
let's
this
get to a
question.
question, and we can go back and forth all night about, numbers. But
So tonight we've beat up budgets. Is that the hot topic? Money, funding? I'm going to ask the Board of Selectmen, and future Board of Selectmen, right now, the basis of our taxes is residential. Right?
Right.
Okay. So what would you propose and what should we work on aggressively? Because that's not going to change. The increase of costs and operations are going to continue to go up. You're not going to stop it. It's going to go up. So you have to find some way to offset that. Tell me what you're going to do to offset it.
Starts with Charlie.
Charlie, I think you're the first guy on that one because of the rotation.
I was the first one the last time.
Well,
I was.
He was.
No.
No. Yeah, I was.
I said no.
he was. Okay, so Joe, are you?
But Kim.
No, Joe went last.
I
It's
went
Charlie's
last.
turn.
Okay,
I
Charlie,
went
yeah.
to
So
Kim.
Charlie, the question is, what would you do to increase the tax base I get, right, other than residential? Is that the question? Is there an option for increasing tax base?
Try and push for more commercial. We have very limited commercial property in this town. Very little. You have down by me where the horse farm is, that's 15 acres. And you have 50 acres that Todd Fitzgerald owns. And that's it. You need to make more commercial property and get businesses into the town. That's what you need to do.
Mr. Guy.
Okay, so there's a couple of different ways you can do it. One is commercial property, smart way of doing it through the planning board in the right way without disrupting the small town look that everybody who voted on that survey that we did wants to keep the small town look. So currently, we have a couple of commercial developers in the process right now of developing more commercial buildings. The other possibility of increasing our revenue is being aggressive with grants and stuff like that, which we are, and it's not free money. We still paid it, whether it's federal taxes or local taxes, it's still coming from us. But if we can get any of it, it does help offset a lot of what we want, whether it's buying a new fire truck or buying a new police car. If we can get grants or matching grants for stuff like that, it helps keep that type of thing down. You're not going to get a grant to hire a fire department guy, a police officer, or anything like that. That's not going to happen. But the equipment side of things and grants for building maintenance and building there's grants for roofs. I mean, there is grants out there. You just have to be aggressive. And I'll be honest, because I've dealt with this, a lot of the grant stuff comes down to how well your town administrator is with that, because they're usually the person that's pushing that. And if they're well versed in grant writing, you can get some huge grants that most people didn't even know are out there. So that's my answer.
Mr. Aiello.
Commercial. We don't need to make the town an industrial place, but you can certainly add more commercial to the areas. There's definitely places to put it that keeps our small town look.
Mr. Conley.
So I am in favor for adding commercial. I think, as I stated earlier, hiring the right person when it comes to this town administrator is key, because that person, as it was stated, is going to be not only, I mean, we have Trish that does a wonderful job going after grants and helping things. Charlie pushes a lot of stuff too, but it comes down to hiring somebody with the experience that knows how to go after, knows the infrastructure to get to the grants. That's key. So it's a combination of both. It's not one answer. It is a combination of both. But I will say this, the commercial, it has to be palatable for the town.
Yep.
That's going to be key. Because as much as you can say commercial and everybody wants the 9 to 5 that doesn't create noise, and there's a lot of things, right? I mean, I was on the ZBA. I've heard from the town people. We just have to find the right commercial to bring to town.
Mr. Simone.
Okay, what I'd like to say is probably a combination of things. Commercial is great. I think we need to look at that and look into expanding that. Unfortunately, and this is just from hearsay that I've heard over the years, opportunities have been brought to town hall, and from what I understand, it just died right there because it wasn't put forward to the selectmen to make decisions of that. That all being said, operating and this was in the past, not this current administration, so just in the past. So with that all being said, I think we need to look at the capital improvement program, see where that is going to take us. I understand that's ready to be present it to the town at some point in time. I'd like to know when. It's probably about a year, in abeyance on that. But in any event, so, tie that in with it. I'd also look to, I would like to look at the opportunities of doing impact fees for developers for public safety. And that would be a help for public safety in general, meaning police and fire, to take some of the strain off of that. In addition to that, the last TA that we had hired, I was part of the citizens interview process, and one of the strengths that I think he had was in grant writing, because he was worked for a lot of Massachusetts communities that got a lot of grants and everything, and so he knew some of the things that how to pull those strings, and I think he was working towards that. But so I think the next TA we have and administrative assistant need to be proficient in grant writing, because like Selectman Connolly said, there's a lot of money out there that could be had.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, Jamie Fitzpatrick. So a number of things have been said tonight, and I'd like to just expand upon your positions on these. So I asked the road agents, the single...
You never answered the question.
Yes, I did. I was
He was the first guy off.
The first one.
I was first. We're falling asleep here.
So I had asked the road agents what the single biggest issue that they have facing them, and they both agreed that it's funding. And the board was asked about what do they think about the budget, and 80% of you, the four on this side, excluding Selectman Melvin, said, we support the budget, and we've heard a lot of discussions from the board as to we need this, we need the salaries, the costs are going up, et cetera. That said, there is a budget that's out there that's going up about 20% roughly as a proposed budget, with a default that's only going up for 1%. So one of the things that from a selectman's perspective, you have to look at, what am I going to do about this? Because there's probably a high chance that a 20% budget doesn't pass. Yep. So if in fact that comes to fruition, Mr. Melvin also mentioned there's $2.4 million in unexpended funds. And he mentioned one of the things he'd like to use that for is building a structure over on Merrimack. So I got a two-part question is, if the budget fails, what, if any, amounts of that $2.4 million in unexpended funds would you tap for what specific line items in the budget that still you feel need to be funded? And do you or do you not support building a structure for a library, I heard, a town hall, police station, whatever that combination of events would be? Do you or do you not support using the unexpended funds at $2.4 million for the structure? Thank you.
Mr. Guy.
So I probably wouldn't touch that 2.4 million for either. I think that, let me rephrase. The 2.4 million, I wouldn't touch it. If it gets voted down and we're in default, I'm gonna do everything I can to not touch that. So whether that be some things get cut, I'm not saying that we're cutting like, the transfer station is going to be closed on Tuesdays. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that like fire, police, all that stuff is going to be running. You know as well as I do, Jamie, I can't say what I'm going to do until you're there. And as far as using the 2.4 million to purchase and build a property, no. I want, if that's even what the town wants to swallow, it's going to be a bond, it's going to be going to the voters. As a selectman, as a group of selectmen, they can spend that 2.4 million any way they want. I would rather save that for something else other than a building.
Mr. Aiello.
Yeah, I would leave the 2.4 million alone. I'm not in favor of Charlie's plan of building another, whatever it is, library, community center with that money. If the budget doesn't pass, there'll be cuts. I think there are places that can be cut, maybe not for the 700,000 that the budget raises, but there are places that be cut. But yeah, like Dan said, once you're there, you don't know until you have everything in front of you and you're looking at it.
Mr. Conley.
So, complicated question. I will say this. I would look at tapping part of the fund, right? Maybe $100,000, $200,000. I would look at what that could do for the town. I would look at it in the areas of police and fire first, right? So make sure that we have that type of response that's needed. I am not in favor of pulling $700,000 out of there just to meet the budget, right? So there would be a combination type answer. As far as the complexes go, the complex goes, this building has served us well. It is not a great building. It is not a great building for the ladies that work downstairs, for the gentlemen that work in here. So you take this, you take the library that's old, there's maintenance costs, you take some of the other things that you could collapse into a complex. Am I in favor for looking at that cost and understanding it? Yes. Because the constant repairs that come into this building alone and some of the other things, it just gets to a point, are you just throwing money away? I'm in favor for taking a look and then making a decision based on what I find during that process.
Mr. Simone.
Yeah, I can't give an answer right now but without having all the facts in front of you. However, with that being said, the 2.4 million unexpended fund balance, we're mandated by law to keep a certain percentage. I've heard like 17% for the town, and I don't know what the percentages that we have to keep for the school. However, with that being said, I would be in favor of looking into taking some of that money as to help go against our tax rate. And I would probably want to put a cap on it, like about maybe 200,000. Now, another thing that was said about a potential town complex, I think that's something that we need. I'd like to see that done in my lifetime. I think we need to put, once we get the capital improvement program in front of us and digest that and see what it is and see what some of the things are, I'd like to put a committee together, feasibility committee, just to study that and have them come back with some facts. And that committee could be comprised of people from the planning board, selectmen, public safety, concerned citizens or whatever. But that's something that we need to look at down the road as well.
Thank you. Mr. Melvin.
Okay, I'm not looking to take the full $2.4 million out of the unexpected fund balance, but we're going to be going, I'm pretty sure we're going to be going to a default budget. And in this default budget, there's things that need to be taken care of. One is the transfer station. Their budget is going up $83,000, is going to go up $83,000. And they can't live without that, to be honest with you. Our contractor that hauls our trash has kicked his prices up like you wouldn't believe, and we're going to have to pay it. Now, at the transfer station, for a resident in town to get rid of a mattress, it costs you $50, not unless you got your free card. But it costs us $80 at Mellows to get rid of that same mattress. So you're losing money. It's almost like we're at the point where we should say, we're not taking mattresses anymore, to be honest with you. But this building's falling apart, and it's because it's so old. I mean, we did Mary Jo's floor, and I was in there the other day, and I was talking to her, and I said, Mary Jo, how's the floor seem to you? I said, it feels like it's going down. And she said the same thing I thought, the building's sinking. So you're not gonna put a new structure up this year. What you need to do is you need to build up for it. I sold a house up in Wolfboro, New Hampshire, and I went to their town hall, and it was beautiful, unbelievable. They had leather sofas in there and everything else. And I said to them, I says, where did you get the money? Capital reserves. We need to do a capital reserve for the structure, and possibly we could hold off maybe 5 to 10 years and have enough money in there to pay for it outright.
Thank you. Next question.
So, real quick, I'm going to touch on a basis because sitting here, there's been a lot of misinformation. There's been a lot of people who have come up to here who have tried to guide their questions in order to get the answer they wanted, in order to misrepresent the truth to what's really going on and what's taking place. And for any of you that don't know who I am Selectman Marchand. One of the things that everybody seems to throw out here is about bonds. Well, let me inform everybody that the state doesn't just hand out bonds, okay? When you get granted a bond, the town is usually has to come up with a percentage, and depending on what the bond is, it can be anywhere from a 20% match to a 50% match, which means the town needs to come up with money. Now, if we're already struggling to pay our bills, to have people put in place in office and do their things, to have a fire department fully equipped and running, a police department fully equipped and running, we don't have any money, like Charlie said. That money that's in the capital reserve fund that we have, it was already said, 17% by the state is recommended heavily that we hold back on that in case of an emergency to where we do have to come up to cover costs and we do not default. Because as you hear and you see and you read in the news, default, then when we need to borrow money to put up a structure, means that we are going to pay more money in the interest on that bond that we pull for that. And my friend from the state that was talking about the houses getting assessed, this town didn't assess the housing. That gets assessed by the state. So the state makes sure that they get their cut of the action so that they can fund theirs and we get ours. So every time that 1,000 got added in, that has nothing to do with anybody that sits in that board or anything that goes on in this town. That is out of our control. There's a lot of things that are out of control that we are stipulated by RSAs, by law of what can and cannot be done. And about that participation that's needed, we should have and could have and needed more than this here when we were having our budget meetings, so that this misinformation that's constantly going, you can hear my voice rising, quite upset, that's getting put out there and going around is really driving me crazy. Because if we...
That's the question, Bob.
You can't control your temper and even address this board and this audience without raising your voice. So take a breath and just talk, because we can all hear you.
The people of this town, I sat here, had a meeting. I sat here by myself. My wife and my granddaughter showed up so that we could get the input of the town. These things have taken place. What I need to know with this board is about ethics. And that's one of the big things that we're having trouble with the select board, is ethics. And one of which is, we have a new proposed ethics that we wanted to put in place. And part of that ethics was that a selectman should not be working in any other department in the town. And why is that? And that's because during the day, he works for that department, and then at night, he's that department's boss. And then if he doesn't like what's going on, he can go off on said department. And then it's happened. Point blank, it's happened, it's taken place. And it goes on. The good old boy network, right? The lone wolves that like to try to take over and run the show. And that's why we have this whole mess that likes to get taken place behind the scenes, the misdirection, the misinformation that goes on. I want to know right here, right now, who up there would not vote to have a code of ethics like that put in place, to where a selectman stays as a selectman and does not work for another department.
Who's starting out?
I think it's you.
Is it me?
Yeah, I think
Mr. Connolly, I think you're the next guy.
I told you he was coming for me.
Sorry. So I'm just going in order.
I am in favor of the ethics, the way it's written. I do not believe, and I've publicly stated this, I do not believe a selectman should work in the town under a department head. No boss should work for his employee and then at night come back and scold him for what he does. Hands down. If a selectman wants to go and help out somewhere, right? Go help out. But, and I've asked Chief Jewett to give me the good stuff to go work for him. No, not gonna happen. But you can do things around this town and help out. but in no way, shape, or form should a selectman report to a department head. That itself is a conflict. That's my answer.
Mr. Simone?
Okay, first off, I'm going to say that I'm in favor of a code of ethics. I also understand we hashed this article out at the deliberative session, probably up for 2 hours. And I think the consensus is to take a look at what we have and rework what we have rather than reinvent the wheel. With that all said and done, I guess I want to be privy to a lot of the information that was given in non-public to this. And so I can't make an adequate decision right now without, if I get elected, become part of that discussion as to what's the story behind the story.
Mr. Melvin?
I think this is directed towards me.
No.
Well,
Don't forget there was 2 other selectmen that worked in.
It appears that way. We have had trouble getting down at the transfer station. We can't get an employee down there. And what we would have to do is close the transfer station because 2 people can't do it. You need at least 3. I volunteered to go down there and do it. The selectman told me I couldn't because I wasn't licensed. So I went to school and spent the 8 hours and then the hour taking the course, and I passed the course so that I could go down there and do it. Also, Mr. Pavero would not, with this one that they were trying to put in place, he couldn't even plow because he's an elected official. So what we need to do is we need to sit down, just like Joe said, and rework the code of ethics for the town.
Mr. God.
Okay, so first of all, yes, absolutely, there's supposed to be a code of ethics. Right now, it says full-time and not part-time, because I read it. So it needs to be adjusted. What's that?
That's the law.
Yes, exactly. But the selectmen can have their own set of bylaws. Second, Mr. Melvin, you think it's directed at you? The town just literally went through an issue for the last 1.5 years for somebody on the fire department. I mean, no, I lost my train of thought. No, there's 5 of us. You don't have to work for the town. I mean, seriously. And it goes back to, if there's a problem with employees, you gotta increase salaries. When you're competing, you were talking about competing with Massachusetts and other towns and stuff like that. You guys are competing with Water Country for lifeguards. Like, the town of Newton competes with Water Country. That's not a sentence that I would say, normally. So that's the issue. But no, there's 5 selectmen. They don't need to work for the town. You want to help out? Fantastic. You should be helping out, if you can. But you don't need to work for the town.
Mr. Ayala.
I agree 100% with Dan. You need to have a code of ethics, and that, there really shouldn't be a selectman working for the town in any other department, under a department head or not. Full-time or part-time really shouldn't be happening.
Fair enough.
Wait 1 second, I got one more thing to add, actually. Mr. Simone had stated that they were talking about the code of ethics in non-public. And if that's true, that's also wrong. That should have been very public, because we're all public people, elected officials, and nothing we do is private, unfortunately. Sorry.
You all set on that? Mr. Simone, you need to follow up or anything?
No, it's just like I said before, there was a lot discussed, I'm sure of that in non-public that we're not privy for us, but to ask us to make a decision on that without having a lot of background facts and where it was directed to, where it wasn't directed to, I think it's unfair.
Ms. Gunn.
Great. First, I would like to offer a clarification to a discussion that was had just a few people ago.
Is it a question?
Here we go.
It's a clarification for a question that was asked.
If I could, I've known Ms. Gagnon for many years, and we often sort of tease each other. Isn't there a game show where you have to phrase your answer as a question? We won't do that, but yeah, go ahead, make the clarification,
I'm not looking for a response.
and then ask a question.
This is for the people to understand.
Got it.
Okay. There was a question raised about what you would do with the $2.4 million unencumbered fund balance. What would you use it for if the budget didn't pass? There was talk about infrastructure work being used, putting roofs on, things like that. I just want to say right now, you can't do anything with it as a select board member except reduce the tax rate. That's it. The only other way funds from the unexpended fund balance can be spent is by warrant article. The people vote on it. I just needed people to know that we can't take $2.4 million and build a town hall without it going through a warrant article. The selectmen cannot do it on their own.
Just a comment on that. A couple of years ago, we petitioned the DRA of the state or whatever to take some of that money to build a salt shed, and I think we were given it, but it was we had to write a letter of a hardship letter or something like that. So there are ways of doing it, but your premise is correct though on that. But I just wanted to make that point.
All right, so I just wanted to throw that out there. My question. In the last year, we have had selectmen walk out of meetings after they have started. How would you hold yourself and the other board members accountable for these actions in the future?
I think we're...
No, it's...
And Mr. Simone.
Yeah, it's Joe.
I think as a selectman, I think we take an oath to take care of, do our due diligence and be the stewards and the guardians of the town. So I think something like that, I think shouldn't happen. I would be very disappointed if anything like that happened with the current board or the new board coming up.
Mr. Melvin.
Here's another one directed towards me, because I walked out. When you turn around and you support individuals for the position of selectman, which was Bob Machad and Edvin, and they turn around and you're the vice chair, and they take away the chairmanship when it's your turn, you're best to walk out instead of saying something that you shouldn't say.
Mr. Guy.
No, I've never walked out of a meeting. I would never walk out of a meeting. And Charlie, there's no such thing as your turn as being as chair. Whoever is the best person for chair, as that board decides.
It's every 3 years.
No.
Yes,
Best
it is.
person is chair.
It's been the procedure for how many years?
I don't care. It's stupid.
Well,
I'm
that's the
sorry.
way it goes.
Whoever the best person is the chair, as decided by that board, period. I don't care if it's your turn.
What?
That's a lie.
That's not a lie.
There were a few occasions to where the vice chair did not make chair. That's all we did.
When?
I was one of them.
Well, I can see why that.
Personalities here, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, so we're not adding anything to the knowledge of the voters, other than the board squabbles. The board squabbles, okay? We know that. Everybody in town knows that. If you guys could squabble more, we might get higher ratings and we could sell it as a reality TV show and take the money into the treasury and cut the tax rate. Get us on Netflix. We can call it Real Selectmen of Southern New Hampshire. They can pay us $12 million a year and our taxes.
They're doing it because of me. That's okay.
In all seriousness. Mr. Aiello, there's your fundraising scheme. Comments on selectmen leaving to cool off in a meeting or something.
No, you can't take your ball and go home. It's unacceptable. You're here to do a job. Be here for the whole thing. If you don't like what's going on, toughen up, sit here, take it. People are being mean to you or disagreeing with you, just deal with it. But no, you can't walk out of a meeting. And you can't just not show up to meetings either. There's another selectman that's just not showing up, but so we don't need to go there.
Mr. Conley.
So no, I don't walk out, but you raise an interesting question. What would you do? Yes. Here's the dilemma. We're all elected officials.
There's nothing we can do.
No matter what is said, you can't really do much. So, what can be done? Keep educating the public? that person gets voted out. You can't change, there is a way, you can go to the state, you can petition the state, something like that, and you'd be like, no, go back and fight it over. But what can be done? I wrote that down. I'm gonna come back to you, if you want to post it publicly, whatever. I want to think about that. So I think that's a very good question, and it comes down to ethics as well.
Next question. And we're going to wrap it up at 9:30, and I think we have 2 pending from the Zoom crew. Well, but you're going to have to wait because we got to take some of the Zoom people. So why don't we take one more question, then we'll take the Zoom people, then we'll take questions till 9:30.
Someone other than Anthony?
Right, we're done at 9:30. And if you got a question pending, you're done. And these guys need a few minutes to talk, so we're going to stop
You
taking
don't get to
questions
say
at
someone
like
other than Anthony.
9:25 so they get a chance to talk.
So,
I don't think that was Coleman.
That was Anthony.
that was Anthony.
Why don't we take this question and then we'll take one of our Zoom questions.
This will be really quick. So I know that there have been reasons for the non-public sessions, but it seems like there was an inordinate amount, and maybe it was the issue that the board was dealing with. But what would you do to be more transparent as a board?
Can I just ask you to clarify, transparent about what?
There were a lot of discussions that were had. If you read through the minutes, it went to non-public. So as a public, we don't know what's going on, knew a lot of things were being worked on and knew it was of a sensitive nature, but what is going on in the town as far as decisions being made, I think a lot of that was not transparent to us.
So we're starting,
Charlie. I'll start. In non-public, you're dealing with a lot of issues that may have to deal with attorneys. So what you have to do is you have to watch what you say, and you have to watch what you say in the public, because you're going to get sued. And this is the reason why we have these non-publics. Because to be honest with you, I haven't found one that shouldn't be non-public.
Mr. Guy.
So with non-publics, there's a certain set of parameters you have to meet to be in that non-public. They're all listed. They usually, I don't know, when they print their minutes, do they pick the reason?
Yes.
You do? Okay. I know that. I'm just saying it for clarity's sake. But there's a lot of it. If they want to talk about her, they have to do it, no offense, they have to do it in non-public.
Any
If they
employee.
want to talk about Charlie, they have to do it in public.
Right.
Because he's an elected official. But I get it, there was a lot, but there was also a lot going around, and you know as well that like they can't do it in public. It's unfortunate. That being said, if I was ever in a non-public that I think didn't need to be a non-public, you would see it reflected in the vote.
Okay.
So if you saw a motion to go in a non-public, this is the reason, that you would see a no vote from me. But I would still take part because that's my job.
Okay.
But you would see it reflected in the vote. That's the best way I can explain
I got
the
it.
reason.
Mr. Aiello.
I've never been in this situation, so I don't really know what they do in the non-public, so I
Okay.
can't give you.
Mr. Conley.
It might be dying. I got like one bar left.
Oh, I was coughing, thank you. I was trying not to blow it into everybody's ears. So think of non-public, just as you would in a private sector, HR issues, right? You do not talk about HR issues in front of all the other employees, right? So there's HR issues. There are legal issues. There are issues that need to be dealt with that, to run the town, that fall under those legal categories that you need to keep it out of public, right? So if Mike Conley worked for the town and his boss had a problem, he's writing him up, you will not see that at a public session.
Okay.
That's to keep it private so the employee, one, you don't want to embarrass an employee. But maybe it's his word is coming back to say that didn't happen, and now you've got discussion, and then you got everybody weighing in. It's to deal with the issues that need to be dealt with and then move on. Some stuff will go from non-public that we need to bring to public, and it'll be on the agenda up here as well. Okay?
I'm a firm, I'm sorry, I'm a firm believer, and there's a lot of issues, as the gentleman up here have alluded to, a lot of issues that are very sensitive in nature that need to be dealt with in non-public. However, with that being said, if an issue does not need to be there, I will ask the question and say why, and, you know, give me the reasons why, and if it doesn't have to go, then we'll bring it up in front of the board. But yeah, non-public definitely, we're bound by the, you know, RSA 91A, right to know and all that, so it's.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Coleman. Mr. Coleman, go ahead.
Yes, my name's Coleman McDonough, and I'm fully supportive of Bob Martian's comments. I've got to tell you that I'm not a resident of the town. I'm probably one of the highest taxpayers in the town, in that these non-publics, it just seems like the town is like, I just want to make the statement that it's like a Peyton place. He said, she said, and I agree with the moderator, we should probably start a reality show. You've got structures that are falling down. You've got budgets that can't be met. You've got shortfalls in taxes. You've got employment problems. I've got a commercial and industrial park that I've been working at for 16 years. And I think it's the only viable revenue to the town of Newton. I don't use any of your roadways. I'm on the second phase. I use about 40 feet of the state highway Route 108. You can't see my project unless you drive into it. It's totally private. It's going to be condominium, so it'll be a private road. It's going to mostly butt Plastow, the town of Plastow. It's going to be a private roadway. I don't use any one of your services. I won't need plowing of the roads. I don't need your fire department. And I finished phase 1, and I built all kinds of cisterns and ponds for the fire department to use, that they test frequently their fire trucks. I don't use your dump, and I don't put one child in your school. It is 100% free tax money to the town. And I'm dumbfounded why after 16 years, you're not pushing this project forward. I know that Charlie Melvin was against my workforce housing, and he put out a warrant, and I think it was pulled back because it was illegal, and he's been against my project forever. But I want to know what selectman in the future is going to be for a project that'll bring $2 to $3 million in taxes without using any service in town. And I will pay my school budget of 74% that'll work for the town, so they don't have to pay the school budget, although I don't put one child in school. I am dumbfounded after 16 years. This project should have been finished 10 years ago. Why the town keeps on bucking me, and I'm just dumbfounded, and I want to know what selectmen, if they get nominated, will move this project forward.
Well, so let's hear from the selectmen. So the question is, Mr. McDonough, I'm trying to sort of summarize the question to make sure they got it. What selectmen, or would you commit to moving Mr. McDonough's project forward, his industrial development projects? Yeah, I guess there's a housing project and a commercial condominium project. And I don't know who's got that one first. Mr. Guy.
I'll start off.
So it's, no, it's me. It's going around, okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Guy.
So I'm actually in a special position because I'm on the planning board. So I've seen Mr. McDonough's plans, I've dealt with him and everything else. I am in favor of his projects going through the right way. They do generate a lot of tax money for the town, but they've got to be done correctly. And we're getting there. We're almost there. We're close, as far as I'm concerned, on phase 2 right now. but they gotta be done right so the town can swallow it, so we don't upset the townspeople around the complexes. I'm all in favor of it. It is, you're right, it's out of the way, you're not using this, you're not using that, but let's just do it right, and I'm good with that. That's it, Oh, the selectmen won't be pushing anything forward because it's up to the planning board and the ZBA.
That's the planning board, exactly.
I am in favor.
Now I'm good.
I'm in favor of the project.
Yes, yes, the master plan as well.
So,
Mr. Conley.
yeah, no, I'm very familiar, being on the zoning board of appeals. I'm very familiar with the different projects that Coleman has tried to put through there. Am I in favor? I am if it's done right and it generates the money correctly, I'm in favor of doing something on that property. I have no problem with it. I think it just, again, I'm gonna leave it up to the planning board and the zoning board to do their due diligence, make sure it's done right. And if that comes through that way, again, it's not gonna come to me for a vote, right? But if it's done that way, I don't see a problem.
Mr. Simone?
Yes, being on the outside looking in, I say that this is a planning board and a zoning board issue at that point in time. And if everything is done the way those folks deem it should be done, and it goes according to the rules and regulations, you know, it's a good thing for the town.
Mr. Melvin?
Okay, first of all, Coleman says I'm against his project. Well, he's incorrect. I have never voted against his project. Coleman McDonough is his own worst enemy. He keeps trying to push for all these waivers and they get declined. And that's why he turns around and has to keep coming back and coming back and coming back. It happens all the time.
All right, well, we've got, it's at 9:30, she wants to call up. Yeah,
It took how long for them to ask the question?
right, these guys need a minute to get, you're gonna get 1 minute each, so put that in your head, and she's got 1 minute to ask the question.
Have you seen my minute?
All right, so at times your position may require you to take action that goes against your personal opinion. Are you willing to commit to taking whatever action the majority of the board dictates, even if it goes against what you voted for?
That's kind of like.
Do you understand that question?
No, I don't.
For example, you may be required to sign a document as a board member when a majority approves signing it, but yet you were opposed to signing it. There's an example.
I think I'm going first.
You're going
Correct.
Yes. I would sign it. Well, I would be in favor. If the majority rules, I would go with it.
I would sign it. I've voted no in the past and still signed something, so.
It's not just sign, that was an example. Any action.
If the board says we're moving forward in this direction, right, it's still like in the private sector. When my boss, I can argue all I want. At the end of the day, when my boss tells me, you know what, I heard you, we're done, the board, or our venture capital have said we're going this way,
It's over.
okay, that conversation's over.
Well, but hold it. Let's pick the contra example, because sometimes I can't resist jumping in at the last minute. You're at Enron.
No, I'm not.
You're at Enron, for example, and your boss says, you know what? All we got to do is tell the stockholders that we made $50 million last year when we lost $100 million.
Philosophical thing.
Are you going to
If
sign
it's
that? Are you going to
ethical,
sign
yes.
that one?
No.
you're not.
No,
Thank
so
you.
All right.
with respect to ethics, right, I'm not going to sign something I think is illegal or unethical, but in the spirit of what I think you're getting at, the answer is yes.
Mr. Simone.
Obviously, legal
Yep.
actions by majority of the board.
Well, once again, I would just go back to, you know, a working situation. If, you know, they said that if the board of directors voted this way, that's what they're gonna do, and you need to sign that document, then, you know, even though you're a no vote, you need to sign it. I think legally you're bound to do that by a code of ethics and whatnot. I could be wrong, but I'm, you know.
Mr. Melvin.
I do not sign anything that I don't believe in. And the incident was when we were picking another selectman, my choice was Joe Simone. If I vote no, I'm not going to sign it. I grant you, they had some of the Kelman call me, and I turned around and talked to some of the Kelman, and I told them as a favor, I would go in the next day and sign it, which I did do, but it was against my personal judgment. You don't sign something that you don't believe in.
Okay, so.
My turn.
Your turn. Right, correctly.
Charlie, you didn't vote for the budget. Did you sign it?
I don't think I did.
You did. I would sign it.
Didn't sign anything.
Via ethics, or I know it's signing, I get it, but I still understand your premise is like, if everybody wants, Sanborn wants a new football field and I vote against it, I'm still gonna try to push it forward. Like, I understand what the premise of your question is. Whether I agree with it or not, I'm part of a collective, and to move the town forward, this is how we act, within our ethical, criminal boundaries. But that's fine.
It doesn't have to be a criminal.
I get
act,
it.
could be a
You know what I
criminal
mean.
act. Okay, so.
So now I'm
just trying
I believe at this end with Mr. Guide, so we're going to just flip the order in the other way for closing statements. Mr. Melvin. Huh? They're talking.
you got a question.
Mr. Melvin, you're first on closing statements. You got a minute. Oh, because we're done. We're not taking any more questions because we're going to run out.
Well, being this, I've turned around and I've done an awful lot of things for this community, and I'd like to keep on doing it. And I would hope you would support me in March 14th.
Mr. Samardi.
Very plain and simple. I think a lot of people out there know me over these 45 years that I've served in various committees, boards, positions and whatnot, working with a bunch of people. I just want to say that collaboratively working with the Board of Selectmen, commissions, and other people, I'd like to, initiate that culture change, transparently working on various things, and working within the confines of 91A.
Mr. Conley.
Appreciate your consideration.
So I'm running unopposed, but when I came in June, started to get involved as a selectman. It was a pivotal time. We had some change coming to the town. We're back to, again, having change to the town, and we're under, the cloud of this budget. The things that you will vote for with any selectman, including myself, is one vote. So make sure that you put in the selectmen that you think can work with other selectmen to get to the right area you want. No selectman can promise you anything. It's one vote. With that said, I want to continue changing the climate and the culture of this town. I want to make this a place where people want to come and work. I want this to be a place when you recruit, you're recruiting people, and they are going to be the best, right? I'm not looking to fill warm bodies in seats. I'm looking for bright, intelligent people. And that hasn't always happened. So that's part of what I'm doing here. I'm not here to run the police department, the fire department, or anything else. I'm here to hold our department heads accountable for what they need to do, including reporting, including some transparency, and getting back to a structure that works for the town. And I appreciate you listening to me, so thank you, and I appreciate your vote.
Mr. Aiello.
I would appreciate everyone's vote, but really, I'd rather you just get out and vote, whoever you vote for. I do think maybe, change it up a little bit. I think the same faces have been here time and time again. It's only a 3-year term. Vote someone new in, you don't like them, you vote them out. So the point is everybody should get out and vote. And, whether you vote for me or you vote for anyone up here, just get out there and vote.
Mr. Guy.
So everybody asks, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Well, here's the thing. There have been people, employees, whatever, of Newton that are embarrassed to say that they're from Newton. They work for Newton. That sucks. I want people to be proud of living in Newton. I want people to be proud of working for this town. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see Newton go towards. Not in the news, Newton. I don't want that. I don't want this black cloud that's been over Newton for like the past 2 years, 3 years. That needs to go away. We need to move forward. I want people to be proud of where they're from and where they work.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone in the audience for your questions, for participating. Thank you candidates for participating. And thanks to our Zoom participants. Sorry, we're running late.
You don't.
Sorry, we're a little late.
I just always put it to mute.